So what happened? Did she throw you out? Huh?
No, actually, she took it pretty well.
So what happened?
She's into it.
Into what?
The Menage. And not only that, she just called me. She told me she spoke with the roommate, and the roommate's into the Menage too.
That's unbelievable!
Oh, it's a scene, man.
Do you ever just get down on your knees and thank God that you know me and have access to my dementia?
What are you talking about? I'm not going to do it.
You're not going to do it? What do you mean you're not going to do it?
I can't. I'm not an orgy guy.
Are you crazy? This is like discovering plutonium by accident.
Don't you know what it means to become an orgy guy? It changes everything. I have to dress different. I have to act different. I have to grow a mustache and get all kinds of robes and lotions. And I need a new bedspread, new curtains. I'd have to get thick carpeting and weirdo lighting. Plus, I'd have to get new friends. I'd have to get orgy friends. No, I'm not ready for it.
If only something like that could happen to me.
Oh, shut up. You couldn't do it either.
I know.
Oh, man.
That is my all-time favorite Seinfeld scene, and Seinfeld's my favorite show. That could be my all-time favorite television scene.
Oh, man. It's just George just losing it. It's just everything, man.
Plutonium by accident.
Everything. Well, we're missing one. Shocked, but we do have some people here, which is important. Let's give a shout out. Jack is here, rebranded and all.
Hey,
hello, Jack. Good to see you, my friend. Catherine, always good to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for being here. Julia Musique, we love it. Hello. Thanks for being here. A vaginal is never late. A vaginal is always right on time. Always. Richard, the goal is to get jiggy, but we're missing our third. So I'm sure he is doing much more important things that is not hanging out with us. So, Jason, it's been a while. How have you? Well, first, before we dive in, so hosting on my channel tonight, Rob is out of commission for the evening. I know he had some work things, so. I am hosting, taking over that Wednesday evening sort of slot for tonight, and it just so happens that's a great time for Jason to be back. How have you been, sir? How are the wife and kids and everywhere in between, man?
Everything's good. Everything's good. Just been this time of year around here. It's like crazy busy. So I'm actually like quite out of touch, like not just with you guys, although we chat offline for sure, but YouTube wise, I am out of the loop. So if there's any good tea, some good gossip from the VC, I'm hoping to get everything tonight. So throw it all at me. I want to be back in the mix here. It's been a busy month, but glad to be back.
Well, not a moment too soon. We're just glad you're here. So as we wait for Sam, I'll walk through, I guess, a little bit of, I guess it was sort of Sam's idea that was based on your idea from several weeks, if not months ago. But this was my understanding of it. And I think this is cool because not only are we going to do it, but, oh, look who it is. Oh, hey, Sam.
Early bird special.
Hey, guys.
Hey. Welcome, Sam. We're just jumping in. First of all, how are you? Are you good? Are you safe?
Yeah, I had to clean pesto out of my teeth, so before I came on.
All right.
So that's a euphemism.
The sort of we'll jump into the topic. I don't know that we need to do a whole Sam, how's the rabbit, or whatever sort of thing.
How's the what?
Whatever you got. But like I think we could go into the topic here. So I think we have a fun, interesting topic tonight.
I want to have some fun.
Yeah, Sam, I think this came from you again, sort of tangentially through Jason, and something that I think have informally sort of talked about. Here was my interpretation, but you let me know if this was wrong, was that each of us thinks about 5 kind of random music-related questions for not only the 3 people here, but people in the gallery, right? The people watching, something that is not necessarily just specific to us, but 5 music-related questions. We don't know what the questions are. I mean, obviously we know our questions are, but like Sam, I don't know yours. Jason's, I don't know yours. And then we ask those questions and sort of go around the horn, and I'm sure stories and thoughts and feelings and all that kind of stuff will come out. But also a cool opportunity for the folks in the gallery to participate as well. So is that sort of, did I hit the proverbial nail on the proverbial dome?
No, it's completely wrong.
All right, Dan.
No, that's about right. That's about right. And yeah, it'll be good for the Peanut Gallery to chime in on these questions. And I'm sure other questions that we don't have written down will pop up depending on the the pop up, the pop in. Jason,
thank you.
So
hey, Nick.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rip roaring good time. We have our beverages, boys. What are you drinking tonight, Alex? I can only assume.
You can only assume. Well, it's a new thing I've picked up recently here, a little local thing. Of course, I only since I got MGK Boston, Mike, take the hint. Hey, Mike, good to see you, my friend.
Oh, Mike, that is Mike. Hey,
you got a shandy or something? What you got going on there, Sam?
Yeah, I've got what's that called, like Linda's Farm, Liechtenstein, whatever that beer is called.
I don't go Linda's Farm no more. All right.
Yeah, Jason, what do you have there? You drinking some?
I got a red ale out of Vancouver. Steamworks Brewing out of Vancouver. A red ale.
Yeah, I love that.
It's good.
It's been a while since the old red ale. That's like one of those. That's like a classic original craft option.
I was just
gone the way of the dodo.
The first microbrewery I went to before the craft thing, that was like their signature beer was the red. And I was like, "Ooh, how cool is that?"
Yep.
Let me ask you: is it a microbrewery because it was in the pool?
It was in the pool. I was in the pool. You missed the opening, Sam. Did you get a chance to see what Alex had lined up for the opening?
No, I missed it because
the pesto situation. Jason, he's talked about this.
The pesto fiasco. Okay.
Well, he can go back and watch it, I'm sure.
Yes. But yes, your rundown, Alex, is exactly what I had in mind like a month ago when we did this with Rob, or I kind of threw some questions out like, Peanut Gallery, please chime in. It's not like they're difficult questions. It's just something to spur on some combo.
Oh, mine are difficult.
Mine are.
I will say before we get into it, Mike, you'll appreciate. Well, and I mean, I don't even want it. Well, then again, Mike, you spent a lot of your life in Canada, I think, right? But I remember when I was in college, a 30 rack, that's what you call a 30 pack. A 30 rack of Natty Light was about a block away from where I was living at the Bowling Green State University, which is just a big college party town. And like, I want to say a 30 rack of Natty Light was something like $13.99.
Oh my God.
Like it was like, and that wasn't, this was, God, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. So it's not like it was like back, back in my day, it was, but that was all college kids drank, you get 30 of them for less than $15 or something. It was crazy.
That's called $13 of regret when that pack is done.
I guess, but you know what though, Natty, it's just water, it's like it's not good, but it's also not like impure. It's just,
I've never had Natty.
It's cheap beer. It's just cheap beer. And
I've never done Natty. I've never done Bush.
Yeah. You try the beer?
Have you had the beer?
Yeah. Subscribe to Beer and Vinyl, and Jay put his arse in that nut.
Usually it's the reverse. Usually it got that nut in the butt. Okay, so anyway, so Sam, so we'll do. It's okay with you all. We'll do one by one, maybe.
One and one.
So like Sam, you'll ask your question to us. We'll have the general conversation about it, and then sort of like rotate and go to Jason and then me and all that kind of stuff. And so it's yeah. Well, hey, there you go. That's not bad to only jump up a few bucks, though.
Wow.
I'm assuming, Mike, that's going to be the beer of choice up at the party.
Yeah, well, what's coming out the keg? It's the real thing.
Man.
Yeah, but what about?
Okay. All right, Sam, you want to kick us off, man? I'm curious what you have devised for us. Do you want to start us off with the first question here, Mon Frere?
Oh, we'll do it.
All right, first question for us and the group.
And this is one I want to say Jason, I don't know if you were even like on these streams at this point, but I think this might have been a topic when we still had our good buddy Glenn, hosting. And I think we all kind of talked about this, but I'm interested to hear y'all's thoughts. And we've kind of talked about this off camera a little bit. And I want to ask you two, and then obviously the Peanut Gallery, when you are seeking VC content, what are you looking for? Is there a criteria that you try to meet when looking for content? And if you, what
This
do
is
you got?
already so much different than the types of questions I had prepared, which is great. I love it.
Yeah, this is awesome. Good question.
I was like, who's your favorite drummer? Great question, and I think a great one for the gallery too, right?
Yeah, that is important for the gallery to chime in on that one.
What's your favorite house sauce? Yeah. It's good conversation.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess I go to answer, I guess, my perspective. I go two sides of it. I try to support and watch people who I feel close to, are big supporters of me, like that sort of thing. Is that funny?
I don't know why he's laughing.
Well, you know where I stand.
That is I think important, right? Like Sam, you could put out, well, I'm not saying that you do, okay, let me reverse this, because Sam, this might be part of your answer too. Like, you watch me more because I'm a close friend of yours, not because I'm good, like, so it's like one of those things. Like, I could be up there like reading a phone book, you know what I mean, and you'd be like, wow, I love how you read that phone book, great, you know what I mean, sort of thing. And I do think that's like some of it, right? Like, I think that's the community aspect of this, right? It's the supporting the friends and supporting people who support you, and I got your back because you got mine, like all those different things. And that's a good amount of people. Outside of that, I gravitate towards people that I outside of just like entertainment factor, I guess it's a part of that, are people that I can learn from, people who I do view as quote unquote like experts in a certain area or whatever that is. So if I want to learn more about jazz, I watch a ton of, it used to be What Can Brown, or then it was like WCB Jazz or What Can Brown, like something like that. But he's a dedicated like jazz collector who, to me, like runs through everything in a very complex way, but it's also very manageable and accessible for someone like me to do that sort of thing. So that would be my thing, is I would go forward to the people that I feel are like the quote unquote experts that I can learn from.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my thing, and Jason, you finish your Coke and we'll get to you. I would say like the original probably 5 or 6 channels that I started watching were, like I watched Glenn. Okay. Let's talk about Glenn for a second. The reason I got into Glenn's channel was because he was connected to me because of Matthew Street, who we all know is a good guy, Beatles channel. And Matthew reached out to me and he said, hey, I heard that you like, Mike Campbell's new group, the Dirty Knobs. Glenn, this guy named Glenn, just did a video on the Dirty Knobs and just talking about it. And so I had just done a video. And so I was like, cool. I didn't know anybody else knew this record. Little did I know at that point how big the VC was at that time and how much larger it is now. And so I watched Glenn and I commented, and then I saw and I think other times in that video, like he mentioned, Bob Dylan, and mentioned how big of a Bob Dylan fan. So I'm like, I'll stick around, listening to Glenn. And again, Matt, I listened to because he talked a lot about the Beatles, and obviously like that was an easy entry point into the VC. And so like those were the guys that I was watching kind of early on, and then obviously it started spreading out. There were friends involved. Like I got into Rich Strickler because of Glenn. Rich reached out to me. We did a video about Tom Petty songs. And then like that got me into Uncle Randy Nelson. And then obviously like Jason kind of, slithered in there, a year and a half later in the comments, and then showing up on the streams. Alex, you were also the same way. So like, it's like this great thing where those were channels that I really wanted to start watching. And there were some people out there that I love as people, but their content is just not something that's interesting to me. Not because they're not good at it, simply because there's so much of it out there. I just don't have the time to watch everybody. A prime example is our boy Scott over at the Prog Corner. Love him to death. I would hang out with Scott right now. I have nothing against Scott at all. I just don't listen to his music. Not to say I wouldn't learn anything from him, but I'm learning so much from these other channels. I'm like, I have to do that balance of listening to the music itself, because that's what it's all about, and then following these channels to get new ideas and this and that. So there's a balance there. And again, it comes down, I'm the worst person in terms of like supporting smaller channels or, larger channels for that matter. Scott's much larger than I am. But it's just because I don't have the time, and like I like an orderliness to my homepage. So like that's a stupid little thing. But anyway, Jason, tell us.
I mean, that being said, before we jump to Jason, right? Like Sam, like if you had some sort of, a lot of this happens to a lot of us as collectors or hobbyists or whatever, right? If you had this sort of like born again experience where you like fell in love with like, prog music or something, and you were like, oh, I need to learn more, like you would probably gravitate towards that and be like, oh, he's the prog guy. Like, that's where I'm going to go to watch my videos about that specific topic. Right.
Right. And that thing that's happened too. Like, I mean, a guy that I watch a lot of is Hub Tunes, Mike. I talk about him a bit. He loves jazz. He also loves a lot of like psych jazz. And so like, there have been times like I've listened to stuff because of Mike. Like, I think I started like putting an ear toward like On the Corner by Miles Davis because of Mike. And, there's so much out there that, I learned from, I mean, like, because of, and this is kind of another question that I have later, but so much music is out there that I've learned of, and I've appreciated more because of people like you guys and then the other channels that I watch. So anyway, Jason, tell us why you hate music. Go.
This is a great question. And I like talking about this aspect of music and YouTube and how they converge more than anything. I feel like I should use this moment to like acknowledge all the channels I love. I'm not going to do that. And you guys both already kind of answered my question. Like Sam hitting on the point that there's just too much out there to watch everyone that you feel deserves to be watched. And so you have to decide, what am I going to invest my time in? In our buddy Chance over at Concert Buddy, he's got that great party line, thanks for your most valuable commodity is time. And like, thank you for using your time to watch my shit. And, not that I put out much shit. I put out shit, but not a lot of it. Anyway, so the idea is that I want to watch someone who's going to give me something for my time. And by and large, that means there's an educational value involved. Now, like Alex said, I'm going to support the people that support me, and I'm going to support my friends. So my priorities on YouTube are YouTube guys, Rob, Glenn, people that and a bunch of others. I don't want to miss names, so I'm just going to stop there. But I want to support the people that supported me first and foremost. I want to get people that educate me on new music. Like Sam has introduced me to a shit ton of great music, a lot of great Americana stuff. Alex, your knowledge of music is just absolutely mind blowing, my friend. I can't say it enough. Like, it is just like, you're like a Rain Man with music, but you're like, normal, sort of, except for that tongue thing.
I'll have to say you're an idiot.
Yeah. You're really good at.
Tom Cruise is going to kill me, is what you're saying.
So in any event, I'll go for education, but it's really hard to not watch humor, and oftentimes they really intersect. Like, and a great example of that is a guy that I friggin' can't say enough great about is Jeff Witcher, and his product that he puts out is friggin' awesome. Now, he happens to have a very high end, editing job and all that stuff, and that is great. That is not my priority when I choose the videos that I want to watch, but it's friggin' awesome. Like, I don't put any production value into my stuff, and like Sam doesn't either, and that doesn't matter to me, right? Sorry, Sam. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I don't watch.
I edit for hours, Jason. For hours. How dare you?
I don't care about that stuff. But I gotta say, Jeff is like next level awesome, and there's a lot of people out there that put time and effort in, and that. And I have a ton of respect for that. I just don't prioritize that in life like maybe I should if I wanted to get more out of this. But in any event, it's the education factor and the humor. And I think it was Catherine that maybe said it in the comments earlier. Like, you have to be enthusiastic and love what you're talking about. Like, I would never put a video out about something I wasn't passionate about. Like, I wouldn't just start talking about a genre that I have little interest in for the sake of putting a video out there. So I wouldn't watch videos like that. But there's a lot of great people out there. I don't want to get into the names of it all, but like MGK Boston's watching tonight. I love watching him. There's a good word for this, and that's authenticity, right? I want to watch someone who's sitting there in their chair having a beer or coffee, whatever it is, and they are hanging out with their camera as they're making the video. They feel like they make it feel like you are just being welcomed into the room and you're sitting around with him. And Mike is great at that. Jeff is great at that. You guys are great at that. And that's where you might lose people on production value, right? You might create a video that's so kind of high end and polished that you're kind of like, oh, I'm watching a movie versus I'm hanging out with a guy.
Yeah.
I went down this road because I wanted some friends that were nerdy like I was, and that's exactly what I got right here. And I love you both for it. And so I'll watch those videos first, education and humor right after that.
Yeah, it's funny, like someone like Mike with his Friday cheers. Like,
I
feel like my weekend can't like officially start until I watch like Mike's Friday cheers.
It is killing me to not be there for that freaking.
Right.
Oh man.
Cool. Well, good. In the interest of, we could probably talk about just that question for the whole the whole thing. But great question, Sam. I hope your next 4 are just as good. Jason, I want to go to you, man. What's your first question, mon frere?
I'm going to steal what I think Sam's other question is he referred to. And so my question is, name artists that are only known to you because of the vinyl community influence. Now, do I answer that before you guys answer that? Is that
I didn't answer it to mine, but if you want to spank it out, go ahead.
Well, I'll make it super brief, and I'll just I'll be really quick, and I'll just say that the obvious answer for me is Dylan at Noble Records has brought in a lot of very obscure, early 70s rock that I would never have known about had I not fallen down the YouTube rabbit hole, found him, and started watching him. That is one side of it. The other side is, and I actually have an album to show to represent that because I forgot to bring out one for Dylan, but the other aspect of things that I didn't think I'd ever get into. When I like got into music, it was I said, okay, I'm going to get into jazz, I'm going to get into blues. And then I kind of fell down the blues rabbit hole, and I kind of went there for the last 15, 20 years. And only once I started watching YouTube and then getting into YouTube, I kind of got into the jazz side, or I wanted to be. And you could call it FOMO, you could call it whatever you want. But ultimately, I started to slip in and dip my toes in it and try to figure out what that's all about. And so I wouldn't know anything about jazz without the vinyl community. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know anything about blue, learning about Blue Note, tone poets, and this and that. And and incidentally, they're some pretty high end products for very cheap. So I have a lot of gratitude for learning about that. Like it's not my thing. It's not my number 1, my number 2, or my number 3 genre. But I wanted to know about it because I respected the capability of the musicians essentially. Yeah. And so that for me is my answer to my own question is obscure 70s kind of rock stuff and jazz, 2 very different genres, but only known to me because of YouTube.
Yeah, for me, I mean, this was one of my questions, so thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
But no, I mean, for me, in terms of like an artist that I've really jumped into, I mean, obviously there were albums that I liked. Like for example, I mentioned Randy earlier, Randy Nelson. He got me into a duo called the Cactus Blossoms. They're a duo. They're very much in the style of like Chris Isaac in terms of production, but also some like Everly Brothers harmonies. They're kind of like some, kind of some like psyche kind of country. They did an EP for Record Store Day a year ago called If Not For You, where they covered Bob Dylan tunes. But Randy got me into one of their albums called One Day, which is fantastic. And they have a new album they just announced that I'm going to order. And I never would have heard of them if it weren't for Randy. They're never in my area. It's like, I don't know if I'll see them because they're not a huge duo. So like they kind of stay where they are known in the Midwest and the Western states. So like they're a group. In terms of an artist who I've gone head over heels into, I mean, my number 1 from the VC is Mike Nesmith. If it weren't because of my buddy Tommy at Tommy's Musical Adventures, I was watching his channel, a year, 2 years before I ever got to, know the guy, much less, hang out with him and see Nesmith in person. It was kind of like a full circle moment. And yeah, obviously, Mike Nesmith from the Monkees and the Peanut Gallery had a pretty extensive solo career, especially in the 70s and 80s. And just getting into his songwriting, understanding like, oh, these guys in the Monkees had solo careers. Like all of them did, but Nesmith's is like on another level of the other guys because he was the writer in the group. And so like to hear his stuff, it's right up my wheelhouse. I have Tommy to thank for that 1,000% over. I mean, obviously there were albums like, I was on the fence about, specifically, like audiophile pressings or, jazz records that I'd heard of them, like I never got into, but Mike Nesmith is the big one for me because of YouTube, like solely because of YouTube. And I'm so happy that is in my life now. So that's the big one for me. Alex, talk to us.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of two answers. I want to highlight Catherine's point here. Mazzy was huge for me. There was so many bands that I got into when I started watching Mazzy years. I mean, this was well before I had a channel or anything. Donovan was one of them. I remember, Donovan to me was always just like this sort of like, twee, almost like novelty type artist or whatever. And then, started getting into him because of Mazzy. The Kinks were another band I got into a lot because of Mazzy. So I will say like, he was someone who, really got into a lot of those things. And a lot of it's just, based on his overwhelming experience and knowledge and all that kind of stuff, his rankings. I will say it's not technically VC, but I have been watching, I would say that, 80% of my knowledge and listening and all those different things comes from a channel called Sea of Tranquility that Pete Pardo has had for years and years and years. I mean, he's operated an online magazine or publication for, 15, 20 years or something like that. But I think probably during like COVID, like his videos really started taking off big time. And so, yeah, it's not like VC by any means. I mean, it's all physical media though. It's CDs and stuff like that. I mean, but that guy has rankings for damn near every band from, yacht rock to black metal and everywhere in between. And so I mean, I typically watch 99% of his stuff. And again, just from like the knowledge perspective. And so there's so many of those bands that I said, oh, I don't know them, or bands that maybe I had heard of, but then it took like that whole like I don't know, like I've used this a lot in my videos too, of like, if the only thing from XYZ artist is this, you need to revisit and look at this, right? I think that has been such a huge thing for so many of these people. So I totally agree. Mazzy, I'll tell you that I love Andy Edwards. In fact, Andy Edwards was someone who I got introduced to because he was a guest on Sea of Tranquility, and he's kind of blown up in his own way over in the UK. I love his stuff. Brilliant and all that kind of stuff. We love Nez. We love Nez. Is that what you call him?
Yeah. Or the Naz, Naz. Naz. But no, I mean, that's just one of those things too. Like I'll never, we always talk about like these videos. That's great, Jason. Why don't you quack all over that? But like if I take anything from YouTube, like if I turn off my channel tomorrow, is that I have YouTube to thank for. I mean, I'm just specifically related to this question. For getting me into Michael Nesmith, for getting me into the Cactus Blossoms, for getting me into these other records that people have gifted me, or that I've taught to. Like, I mean, Alex, you brought me those Raspberries albums when you were here, and like those were great. Like I'm like I never would have listened to those otherwise, but I knew like the couple of hits, but other than like listening to the deep cuts, I'm like, oh, okay. Jeff Witcher, to bring him back up, he did his Pink Floyd deep dive. I listened to I got all the Pink Floyd records because of that series. So my Pink Floyd collection is complete because of Jeff Witcher. No other reason. That's it. Yeah. So.
Love it. Lots of good stuff. Always got the pinky. Yeah. What'd you just pour there, Jason?
Oh, man.
What's
that? Went from like a red ale to an IPA? Yeah.
A very strong 8.2 IPA.
What is
girl.
the misspelling of IPA?
Small town called Smithers in northern BC. Beautiful spot.
Smithers.
Is just gorgeous. Great brewery.
Don't want to
great
go
beer.
down this rabbit hole because I feel like it would take some time. But I'm gonna ask Sam. I'm guessing.
No.
Have you heard this, Sam? Any interest in
No.
this?
I just watched because I was on vacation last week. So like I'm catching up on YouTube videos from the last 10 days or so.
Yeah.
And I watched some different people talk. Mostly, I watched Matthew Street talk about it, and from what I've heard, it's just like if you're a diehard Wings person, you should get it. But otherwise, like it's long. It's like an hour, 15 minutes, and it's just some of the live tracks that we have on other places, just done in a studio with a small audience.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, okay. Clearly, your questions. I guess we'll see what your next questions are. Are a little bit more. Discussion, obviously they're discussion oriented, but like, oh yeah, for sure. Mine are a little bit more like specific in terms of they still take maybe a little bit of thought, but was trying to think about this. This was my favorite question I wanted to ask you both. It is a hometown, or we'll call it a home state or home province hero. So Sam from Virginia. Jason, I'll give you an option, either BC or Nova Scotia, correct?
My God, Alex, I love you. Thanks for knowing that.
I'll give you an option of two provinces, whatever you want to call, whatever you love most. But your favorite artist from your home state or province.
Sam, go ahead. I got to think about that.
Dear Lord.
This is for the comments too. Think of wherever your home is and who your favorite artist is. From
this is tough because for sentimental reasons, I would go with the Statler brothers. Again, quartet from Stanton, Virginia, which is about an hour and a half north of me. Obviously, they were the backing quartet for Johnny Cash for years. They're on the Folsom Prison and San Quentin Records, and then they had a huge solo career in their own right. And I've met three of the four Statler brothers at various times, which is awesome. But in terms of who I go back to regularly is Old Crow Medicine Show. Who are from Harrisonburg, which is just right next door to Stanton. And I mean, I've seen Old Crow twice. I'm seeing them again later this summer. They're the big one. Obviously, for those that don't know, their big hit song was Wagon Wheel, which, Darius Hootie covered probably about 2008 or 9. But they're a great country rock band now. They were started more like a string band. They were discovered by Doc Watson busking in Nashville. I would say he saw them, but that'd be a lie. Because he was blind. But
nailed it.
But no, Old Crow are fantastic. I think they have great songwriters. They're fun, but they can also their instrumentals are just fantastic. The lead guy, Ketch Secor. If anybody saw the Ken Burns documentary on country music,
that must have been good.
Oh, it's fantastic. Ketch is all over that. He's a history book of old time music. So Old Crow are the ones that I listen to the most. Again, the Statler brothers for nostalgic reasons. You could also, I wouldn't, but you can just to plug it. Dave Matthews, he's from Charlottesville, and
South Africa, really.
So South Africa.
Nice job, Alex.
Dave Matthews from South Africa.
Actually, when he's like from South Africa, but from Charlottesville, his accent actually makes a lot more sense.
Oh yeah, it's like what are you talking about? Like, I'm from South Africa, Charlottesville. It's Adam Sandler-esque. It's like, oh shit, like,
but well, Coke Medicine Show, yeah,
yeah, the old Coke. So there's some Virginia boys for sure. But obviously, we also claim the Carter family as well. So,
okay.
Yeah, before you jump in, Jason, because I know you had to think about it a little bit. I will say, okay, so this is perfect because this is a prog band from Quebec. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but I saw our boy Art down at the North Carolina Vinyl Picker. He's a prog guy. He was showing records from this band from Quebec, prog band, and he was pronouncing it Menage.
Oh shit!
It's pronounced.
Wow.
So I don't know if you're able to like phonetically kind of say. Is it pronounced like Menage or is it
Menage?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's French, so I mean, not well, but yeah, if it was, I don't know.
Well, I look at Jason and I see France.
Okay.
Do you see London? Do you see my underpants?
Okay. So we'll
not,
go to
not on camera.
Okay, I'm just looking this up, man.
Hey, John.
Absolutely. Is it folk? What is it?
Is it what?
What kind of music was it? Do you think?
Okay. It's like Prague. Menage? Menage, maybe?
Oh, your knees.
Okay. All right. Jason, you're up.
Okay. So I forgot an obvious one until I looked it up, but I'll tell you the obvious one. And I've showed records by them before, and that's Winter Sleep. They're from Nova Scotia. Winter Sleep's awesome. They're still touring. I don't know if they're really putting out anything new. They're kind of past their, creative prime, if you want to be cynical about it. But that's
like you on YouTube,
aren't we all?
That's right. Nice job. But when you asked that question, my first thought went, and I don't know if there's any Canadians in here, they're going to know this. There's a guy, I don't even know if he's from Nova Scotia, but I think he grew up there or, is more known for being Nova Scotian, and that's Stan Rogers, like a very kind of not country, like folk kind of stomp your feet kind of singer. And when you grew up in Nova Scotia, and especially when you kind of become drinking age or whatever, you start going to bars and stuff, Stan Rogers has a few songs that people will just, they're like, you hold your beer glass, you swing them, and you're sitting at a big long table in this beautiful basement pub in downtown Halifax, and you're singing Barrett's Privateers, which is one of his big songs, right? And if anyone knows that in the Peanut Gallery, that's friggin' amazing that you do. Barrett's Privateers, Stan Rogers, to me, is like the epitome of music from the East Coast. And that was my first thought when you asked the question. But if I had to choose like a band that I own music of and that I listen to frequently, that's Winter Sleep, and I think they're fantastic.
I mean, I would guess, maybe I'm completely wrong here, but in terms of Canadian bands, right? Like what most of them would be coming out of Ontario?
Yeah, while you were asking that, I quickly looked up what's in BC and what's in Nova Scotia. I was surprised how few were in BC. So Ontario would be probably the big one, right? Like there's a bunch in Nova Scotia. Like if Rob was here, he'd be like Matt Mays, because Matt Mays is from Nova Scotia, like not far from where I grew up. And but yeah, mostly Ontario is where the population is, right? So Hamilton, yeah, I checked that up. JWG, it was the first thing I looked up. I was like, I thought he was Nova Scotia, but it says Hamilton, and then you do another search and it says he's a Nova Scotia artist. So, but if you're from the Maritimes, you kind of just Stan Rogers is your guy, right? So
yeah. This is a great answer. I'll defer to both of you. This person is better known as
Alice.
There you go. That a boy.
Oh man.
Not to be confused with Bobby Siegs.
Correct. That's different, Vincent Fernier. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was the thing with Alice Cooper that was the name of the band.
Yeah.
And then he became Alice.
It's like if Mike Love was named Beach Boys.
That's exactly what it is. Damn it.
Right, talk about colognes.
Well, it's funny because there are, I think it's one of those things, and open to interpretation too. Sam, I think you would say, like, obviously, I think, Head in the Heart would be from Seattle area, but I know there's Virginia roots there with some of the members and all that kind of stuff. It's like there's a number of bands, and there's some huge bands from Ohio. It's like the Black Keys are from Ohio, and the James Gang's from Ohio. If you want to go more like post-punk stuff, Guided by Voices are huge. They're from Dayton. The Breeders, there's some crazy old school punk. The Dead Boys are from Ohio. So it was always one of those states. It's cool to think about a lot of these artists or bands from Ohio. We like to say that Dave Grohl is from Ohio because he lived here for 3 months or whatever. His bands, straight out of Akron, I believe, is Devo. Man, they were classic out of Ohio. Ohio claims Devo for whatever. No disrespect, but to me, and I'm not just saying this because I'm kind of blowing the guy right now unofficially, but because these guys, I just love the story of sort of where they came from, this album that they put out, how just, to me, and the music I love, how perfect it is, and how it's just sort of the story of like the lost American band, right? It's like they put out one album in the early 70s on a major label, and it's critically acclaimed, but doesn't sell anything because of some kind of distribution or some kind of thing. And then they sort of go away after a couple of other releases, sort of thing. But that band is out of Youngstown, Ohio, which is pretty close to the border with Pennsylvania. And that band is Blue Ash. This is a perfect, and I mean perfect, like power pop rock record that I would put up there with. Like if someone asked me like top 5 power pop records, this is up there.
I write that down.
It is so good. And in fact, actually, Sam, they do a banging version of Any Time at All from the Beatles.
Oh,
As well as their version of Dusty Old Fairgrounds from Bobby D, in a very kind of cool way, amongst just a plethora of just really great power pop out of 1973. And so what's so cool, I've shared this on some other streams. I don't know if I share it with you two though, but this was accidentally my thumbnail in my power pop video that I did a couple months ago. Because that's how YouTube thumbnails work. And one of these cats, don't know which one he is because, I think he's that guy. One of these cats, who's like one of the sole lone remaining members of this band, commented on the video.
Whoa.
And said, like, hey, Alex, thanks for showing and talking about Blue Ash. That's really cool. I look him up, and I was like, send me an email sort of thing. And so actually in 2 weeks, next week, no, it's actually next Thursday, I'm interviewing him.
Wow.
Which would be really cool. And so, he, his name's Frank, and he was the bassist and like lead songwriter, and has been doing all types of like archival releases of everything. So, really excited for that. But yeah, if it is not just like the story of the local band. This was put out on Mercury or Polydor Mercury, and it is so good. And this is one of the things actually funny that like Sam, I think we were talking about this as your body is like frozen in this. This is one of those things where this record in Ohio is like $50 to $70. This record outside of Ohio is probably like 10 to 15. Because there's such an Ohio story, and it's like the lost Ohio band. And so, I'm really excited for it. And this is, again, like if you're into power pop, hard rock, like this is just absolutely perfect. It's called No More, No Less from 73. They released a record a couple years after on a different label that's also very, very good, called Front Page News. But yeah, this is mandatory in the genre if you're into it. So that is my pick, Blue Ash from Youngstown, Ohio.
Dude, that's so cool. Wow. That's
he gone.
Fun. That's so fun that you get that interview. How, like, crazy.
Yeah, and like it blows my mind. Like I got a comment on it that from some guy that was just like, hey, thanks so much for showing Blue Ash. And I like looked at his name and I like Googled it, and I was like, oh, this guy. And then I just asked him to email me, and he was like, yeah, sure. And he sent me, like, when I asked him if he wanted to do an interview, he sent me 2 promo like PDFs, but like 2 promo PDFs of his bios that he wrote, or like his autobiographies that he did. And like it's just it's been really cool. Pretenders are a great answer too. I think they're out of Akron.
That's sweet.
Periubu for sure.
Vance, how come you're not in Europe following the band, man? How come you're not?
I'll be running into Vance here in about 5 days. We'll meet up with him in Chicagoland.
That's awesome.
Oh, he's seeing the boys, the Stones.
He's seeing the boys. By the way, did y'all see the poster for that show?
No.
All right, so the Stones posters have been incredibly bad.
Yeah.
Oh,
like bad.
shoot.
We were talking about that on a stream. Sam, you're a part of that, I think, when we were talking about it, because our boy Richard was talking about Lucifer down in Denver. So that we were really looking forward to like whatever the Chicago poster is. It's not bad. I'm not going to say it's good, but it's the fucking tongue licking the bean. You know the bean in Chicago? I know, Jason. That's the point. like Chicago's one of their tourist things is the bean, is the Chicago bean. It's pretty underwhelming. I can't lie to you, but it's the Stone's tongue licking the bean like Mean Joe Green. Like it is, it's ridiculous. Yeah, well, Richard, look at the Chicago one because that's gonna be hanging up in my home, and it's this damn Stone's tongue licking a bean. Fill in the blanks. All right. All right. Well, we're 50 minutes in, so let's keep it rolling here. I want to. It'd be tough to get through these 5 questions, but
it's okay. This is awesome. I don't care.
Yeah, let's do it, man. All right. Is it what back to you, Jason?
Sam.
Who is it? Sam?
It's me. Yeah.
All right. What's your next question, brother?
I'm gonna go with again, this is good for the peanut gallery too. I want to hear your oddest concert experience. I want to know, like, whether it was with the band, whether it was with the people in the audience, like whether beans were licked. I want to know what your concert experience was like. For me, I'll go ahead and kick this ball down, the freeway here.
Why are you playing ball on the freeway?
There was a band that I saw, and I won the tickets. I think I might have told the story on another stream. I won tickets.
Thanks for your leftovers.
Yeah, sloppy seconds with the Menage. I won tickets to a show. It was a Beatles tribute show called Abbey Road Live at a local venue here, probably about 6 years ago now. And I got 2 tickets through the radio. They were going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Abbey Road, so they were going to do the whole album in its entirety. Again, my second favorite record ever. And then they were going to do other Beatles songs. So I'm like, for free, I'll go to a tribute show. I'm usually anti-tribute show, but I was like, okay. And they weren't one of these bands that like dressed up in the garb. So like I was even like more prone to see them because like I don't really care for that either. So I had an extra ticket. It was like the day of that I won the tickets. Like I asked my mom, I was like, hey, I got these tickets. You want to go? She's like, sure, because she loves to go to concerts too. They're yeah, we're talking about Mexican food. But they did Abbey Road. They weren't that great vocally. There wasn't like one guy in the band that sounded like any of the Beatles. And they were just like, it was almost like a bar band that has gotten this like really lucky gig. I think they're from Atlanta maybe. And then we finished the second set, which was like greatest hits Beatles songs. And then people were applauding for an encore. I was like, I'm interested to see what they do for an encore. They were almost like baffled when they came out of the encore, like, we didn't think we'd be called back for an encore, blah, blah, blah. And so like then they start playing like 70s TV show theme songs. Like they played the Jeffersons, they played Good Times. And keep in mind, these were a bunch of skinny white guys from Atlanta playing these, theme songs. They might have done All in the Family, I don't know. And it was like, we didn't think, I'm like, you have like 300 Beatles songs to pick from. You just played one record and then like another like 12 songs. Like, play Revolution 9 for 20 minutes. Like, I don't care. They start playing these songs and they might have done like Let It Be or something. I don't know. But it was so bad. I left that show thinking like, I'm so glad those tickets were free. Cause like, if I was like one of these old couples that would be like, oh, this takes me back to the days of my youth. I would have been so disappointed to hear the Jeffersons at a Beatles tribute show. So that was the oddest concert experience of my life. Not great.
I'm scared to tell you what mine is, Sam.
Well, you should be.
Well,
I rephrase. Okay, say the question again. Tell me the question.
Your oddest concert experience.
Oddest. I don't know. Okay, so number 1, 2, or 3 favorite artist of all time, Bob Dylan. I saw Bob Dylan in a really kind of a not so great venue in a not so great city, about 7 hours from here. And when I found out he was playing there, I was like, oh my God, this is going to happen. I'm finally going to see like my number one icon of music. And it was not a good concert. And I don't regret any of it. Like, well, actually part of it I regret, but because of me, not because of him, but I drank too much. I got a little bit whatever. And I was like, and Bob was very much, and you hear this about his shows now. He's getting older. This is about 3-4 years ago. He just stands at the piano or he sits down or whatever. He doesn't. I don't expect anything of him, but it was very kind of. It was a boring concert, and the audience was just very. People were coming and going. When the main act gets on the stage and everyone's there, everyone's standing up, everyone's watching. I remember this experience as people just kind of filing in and out and just doing their thing and just kind of, oh, I went to see Bob Dylan. I saw Bob Dylan. That's kind of what I got out of it. Was I got to see him. But it wasn't a great concert. It was very awkward because people weren't really paying attention. There was talking going on. I left. I came back in, and then at one point, because of my imbibing, if that's a word, I like almost friggin' nodded off. The guy I was with literally fell asleep. And so now the inside joke is, oh, it's about as boring as a Bob Dylan concert, which is sad because they're my favorite guy, right? But as far as
Sam's loving this.
Yeah, keep talking.
I love Bob and I love everything about him, but that concert was not a good concert experience. And because he's my number one favorite, it's odd that it wasn't a good one. Do I regret it? No. I regret maybe I should have been more 100% focused in on him, but
Yeah, you should have been.
Anyway, I should have been. I should have made more of it, and Bob should have tried a little harder, but whatever. He doesn't have to do anything.
You said that was 3 years ago?
Probably more than that now. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, I guess. Yeah. It was disappointing, but it was just an odd experience because you could tell everyone there was kind of oh, this is how it's going to be. And so our phrase is an evening with Bob Dylan. It wasn't a Bob Dylan concert. It was an evening with, just very mellow, laid back, and unimpressive. But still, you're still seeing the icon, right? And that's what I hang my hat on, is I still got to see him.
Yeah, you should shut up.
That's right. I'm bored.
I love bored to be in the room with him. Yeah, and it was cool to see him and cool to be in the room, but I wanted more.
The Cardboard Head guy, he mentioned he saw Dylan during the Outlaw tour. This is the big thing right now because Dylan has been on his Rough and Rowdy Ways tour the last 3 years. It technically ended earlier this year. And he's been touring on the Outlaw tour, which is hosted by Willie Nelson, who unfortunately has been ill. They're actually in Virginia Beach tonight. And Willie, this is the third or fourth show he's had to miss. But Bob has been changing up his set list like he did in the 80s and 90s, every night. Yeah. And he's not doing any songs from the new record. And he's doing he's doing covers. He's doing some other stuff. And it's fascinating. Some songs he hasn't done in 10 years or so. And he has Jim Keltner on the drums, famous session guy, Jim Keltner, which is really cool. And one of his longtime multi-instrumentalists, his name is Donnie Herron. He was with him for 17 years. He's not on this tour, which is fascinating. But and everything that I've seen, Bob looks great. He's 83. I think he's sounding better than he did, 12 years ago when he was doing Tempest. He just sounds so good. I think he completely gave up smoking in the last 10 or 15 years. So that's really helped him. And so I'll take that and shove it right up Jason's butt.
See, I remember you talking about.
Oh, Jesus. It doesn't need to be a Bob Dylan shit fest. Jeez, get over yourself, fuckers.
I remember hearing you talk about him. I'm like, that wasn't the one I saw. And I believe you're right. I think it was a shithole town and not an important show and whatever.
Well,
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it sucks. That's gonna be your favorite artist ever, the worst.
You're just gonna not talk to me anymore.
You
know who else sucks? Pearl Jam. No.
I'm used to that criticism.
I've shared this story a couple times. I think just in a recent memory it was the oddest. It's I go to a fair amount. I go to a lot of shows across a pretty big musical spectrum. It's I've been to thrash metal shows and some weird death metal shit in the basements of a Chinese restaurant, that sort of thing. And so my buddy and I went to see Jackson Browne last summer at the Palace Theater, which the Ohio Palace Theater, big historic theater that has a gazillion shows a year, and it's it's kind of viewed as the big ritzy nice theater. I've been to shows there before. I actually saw Head in the Heart there, which was interesting. That's a different story because that was like great show, wrong venue. Like I don't want to see Head and Heart in a historic seated theater, but regardless.
See, I have seen them in a historic seated theater. Yeah.
And so we're there seeing Jackson Browne, and the crowd. It's funny because it's me and my buddy Ryan. We just assumed we were going to be the youngest people there. We pretty much were, outside of like people who drag their kids or grandkids there.
Yeah.
A lot of khakis and New Balances, like that sort of situation.
That's my closet. Yeah.
And it was so funny that we're going in there and we're like, God, we're gonna be like the young, hip, like rowdy, sort of thing. We get there and this crowd is rowdy. The crowd is heckling. They're shouting shit. They're, play the hits and like, oh, tell us. Like people are just going crazy. And then we're in the balcony, and like 2 rows ahead of us, there's like these 2 families like arguing, and they start like shouting. And this is like during a song. And we're like, what is going on? Like, and of course they like, somebody goes, like sneaks outside and gets like a staff member. But you all know this, like when you go to like these historic theaters, most of these like ushers or staff members, they're like 94 and they're volunteers and they can barely walk. And so like we got these 2 families that are like screaming at each other in this balcony, and old Eldrick over here is like, he's like, hey there, boy, all of a sudden, sort of thing. And so like that did
he didn't shine his flashlight, did he? Did he get that heated?
Oh my God, and of course, like as all this is happening, you got like Jackson up there singing like some song about like, like racial justice or something big going on in the world. He's telling a story about like his dead friend and how that was like the basis for him writing For a Dancer. And then you have these 2 like, these people were in like their 50s, 60, and they're, all of a sudden CMP Columbus police shows up. Columbus police shows up to escort these people, and they escort one of the families out. And I'm like, oh my, this is fucking nuts. And my buddy, we're like, this is so weird. And 20 minutes later, police officer comes back and kicks out the next family. Like it was one of those like close out sort of thing. And we're sitting there and we're like, and that combined with the heckling and the people bitching about how he needs to play the hits. Look, if you go to a show, I'm going to say this to all the people. If you go to a show to see a band or an artist and they're not playing the hits because you just want to hear a greatest hits because that's the type of fan you are, and you want to leave, that's your prerogative. You paid money, you want to leave, more power to you. But the idea of feeling so entitled that you're going to a concert that you're entitled to hear the songs that you want to hear, and therefore you're going to be a fucking dick about it and start yelling shit at the artist or other people. It is like you and January 6th people are the worst people in the world. Like I put that up there of like, you are the worst fucking people in the world. Just go home and stop bothering people, because you know what? Like, go listen to your little greatest hits comp. When I see Jackson Browne or I see Neil Young or I see Bob Dylan or I see these people, I want to hear the stories. I don't want to hear fucking FM radio the whole time.
Yeah.
I want to hear the stories. I want to hear the deep cuts. And if you don't want to, that's fine. Then, swallow your $80 and fuck off. You know what I mean? But the idea of sitting there so entitled that you start fucking yelling shit at the person singing or telling a story about his dead friend, you are a piece of shit. And so I put that out there for the people to get off my lawn.
I'm glad that we have this lovely little conversation.
You piece of shit.
Well, yeah, that was like, another thing that I could have brought up, and Jason, we'll get to you in a second. But like when I saw Gordon Lightfoot the second time, was like these drunk people behind me who were in, and this kind of goes with that comment. These people behind me who were like, they were proud that they were Canadian. Again, this is here, where I am. So like these people were from Canada. They had seen, they heard that Gordon Lightfoot was going to be here. They were married to Americans. And they're like, oh, Gordon, he's God up there in Canada. I mean, Jason, you know that in terms of like the traditional like 70s like songwriters, Gordon Lightfoot is it for y'all.
Yeah.
But they were like, they talked the whole time because they hated how he sounded. Again, Gordon was like 84 at this point. It was like a year before he died. And I'm like, you're not going to see, and Jason, I mean, Alex, you did this so eloquently on your video about Heart. you're not going to hear 28-year-old Gordon Lightfoot sing "Carefree Highway." You're not going to hear it.
Right.
And then these people were like talking. They were 3 sheets to the wind when they came in, and we're like 4 rows from the front. My dad and I were the row right in front of them. And then at the end, during the encore, they're like, "What's the encore going to be?" And the guy was like, "Oh, he hasn't done Time in a Bottle yet. He's got to do Time in a Bottle." And I'm like, "You mean to tell me that you idiots have been waiting here for an hour and a half to hear Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce? I could have kicked you out like hours ago." And I was just so ticked. I was so ticked. They ruined the whole show. They talked the whole night.
Got the Time in a Bottle.
I hate it. I hate them. I hate them. If you're watching, I hate you.
Dude, say they're pieces of shit.
Because like those are expensive tickets. I'm like, you're just a row behind me. Like,
For more than one, yeah, they're not hearing that. But yeah, my thing is like I got no issue with people being disappointed in shows or being upset that they don't hear their favorite songs. It's now twice I've seen Band of Horses, and both times they haven't played either of my favorite songs. You know what? I still enjoyed my time. I walked away and said, "You know what? I'm bummed they didn't play my favorite songs." Okay, could you imagine me fucking my fat ass up there and be play Neighbor, play Neighbor, you fucking talk, like what? No. Anyway, Jason, you're up, mon frere. What's your second question?
Tell us who you hate. No, did Jason answer?
Yeah, it was Bob Dylan.
Oh, Bob Dylan. Yeah, sorry.
We can review that again.
We can review that again. Tell us how much Bob Dylan sucks.
Okay, I got a few here. Let's keep it super.
That was the test.
Keep it super simple. Keep it super simple. Quick answers because we're all right. So, Doc Brown says to you, "I only got enough gigawatts to do one trip back in time." What year are you getting dropped off into? Now, you are your current age. You can't, be a younger self. So you are however old you are now. What year is that DeLorean dropping you off into? And of course, the motivation is for you to see a specific artist or whatever. Like it's to travel back in time for a music related purpose. What year are you going to? I'll keep it super brief and just say that my year would be 1967 because that's what year this came out, and 67 through the early 70s is where I want to be. So this is a good starting point. Go ahead.
So do we have the musical knowledge that we have now? Like
you do. He's in your driveway right now, ready for you to go and punch in the date. Go.
Sam's thinking based on our previous question. He wants to be the person that's booing Electric Dylan with the band behind them.
Judas. Yeah.
Nice job. Oh shit. I'm saying 67. I think that is gives me the opportunity to see everything I want to see. For whatever. It's pretty young.
So we're going to an event. We're not there to we
no,
can't.
Sorry, you're there to stay as long as you want. But what is that starting point or year? If you want to put a time capsule on it, you could say it's a 10-year stretch that you have to spend. If you have to, if you want to.
Well, the reason I asked is because there's a place that I would like to be, but it's not a concert. It would be in the studio, but I don't have the credentials to get into said studio.
It's a hypothetical question, Sam.
No, I get it. I get
this isn't possible, Sam.
Yeah, but okay. So Sam gets transported back into recording friggin' Abbey Road or whatever, and you want to get in there. Your DeLorean is going to Abbey Road Studios, and you can stand outside with a little hat and say, "Please let me in." I'll let you can do whatever you want. It does not grant you access to specific events, but you're there. And if there's a way to get into the event, you have some cash in your pocket and you can buy a ticket or you can bribe someone to get you in.
1865 to save Lincoln. No. Gosh. Yeah, that's when you can become a saint. I would go back to this time to save Kennedy. It's about music.
Stop overthinking it. What year would you be alive for the best music ever?
I can tell I'm exhausting Alex. Alex is worn out.
Yeah.
I would say 1997 because I want to go to the Fillmore and see Tom Petty's like 20-day residency at the Fillmore when he was doing like deep cuts and like blue
Wow.
scores.
What a great answer.
Because like I would have
Was
been
was that what that big box set was based on, Sam?
Yeah, from a couple years ago. Yeah. And because like he would have John Lee Hooker came out, Roger McGuinn came out, like different nights, whoever was in town showed up. And only I think only like the last like 6 or 7 nights were actually recorded. So a lot of that stuff was not recorded at the beginning. It's like to go and to hear all that stuff would just be incredible at my age and knowing what I know about Petty and not caring that I wouldn't hear, Free Fallin' in 1997. Like, I don't care.
By John Mayer.
By John Mayer. yeah. The Continuum tour in 2007. So yeah, I would say 97, and then just I'd be okay 97 through 07 to see, a lot of those groups. And I can finish, if it was a 10-year stretch, 07, I can finish by seeing Zeppelin's reunion.
Oh, nice touch.
Yeah.
So giddy up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say not for any very specific, but just for the general like music when I'm into, like plant me firmly in like 71, 72. Like just all that goodness that was going on. I mean, I feel like, this goes back to sort of like that question during the vinyl like tag or whatever about like what decade you would want to be in or whatever, and to me it was the 70s. But yeah, just that era of Zeppelin, non-Zeppelin 4, or Jethro Tull's Aqualung, or I mean just the list goes on and on for all the stuff that I'm into that I would love to be a part of. But I mean, there's so many good answers there, obviously. Or just those crazy shows that would have been great at. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting, hearing people like Steve, All the World's a Stage, talk about like all these triple bills that he saw. It's like, he would just randomly, it's like he would see 3 of these like mega bands in like, a 4,000 seat arena,
like You're right, Heat.
Yeah.
And Bill.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I will say too, like somebody mentioned it before about Alice in 73, man, there's so many stories about Alice and his touring then and getting banned and all this shit because they were doing, it's like the founder of shock rock stuff. I mean, the stuff they were doing, the stuff that he's doing now, but genuinely sort of doing back in those days with the guillotine and with all the blood. I mean, it was just, nobody had seen that type of stuff, man. That would have just been insane.
Yeah.
Shout out to like the Wembleys and the Live Aids and the Live 8s. I mean, heck, to see, you hear, speaking again of like Mazzy, he tells the story all the time of seeing Pink Floyd on the Obscured by Clouds tour, where they played all of Dark Side of the Moon before it was even released.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. Now I'm like, oh, I saw Roger Waters play to a half-empty arena, and
talk his way through it. Yeah, the lunatic is on the grass. Yeah.
Yes. Lollapalooza. Yeah, that sounds like fun.
That's the thing. People always say like, oh, I go back to Woodstock. I have no interest in being on Woodstock.
No, I'd be shitting my pants for 3 days. Who wants that?
Yeah.
Like people are like, oh my god, it rained, and I'm like, yeah, that's why I don't do festivals.
No, yeah, rain. It's
you
hot.
don't want rain.
Yeah, what? I literally anytime. Okay, let me just put it this way for you fucks out there, you two and the 24 out there watching. Shatting yourself is bad enough, but anytime,
no one's arguing that.
Hold on, sir. Anytime you have to ask yourself, is that shit or is that mud? You're in the wrong place.
How many times does that happen?
Yeah, well, you're making it sound like a very regular occurrence.
Okay, for me, one time in college. No, but I'm saying like that was Woodstock. You know what I mean? Where they would be covered. They'd be covered. In Woodstock '99, the same way. They ran out of water or whatever, and it was like, is that shit? Is that mud? Do we know? Let's just hug it out. No.
For the peanut gallery, anytime that Alex says the word "sir," I laugh my ass off.
Sir. So good.
Sir.
Is it my turn?
Baby.
Please.
All right, let's get my question or my next one. See how many of these get through. I think this is my other one. This was a part of my Prague tag that I did that neither of you did, obviously. But I think it's a good question. Cheers. Hey, Brian. Good to see you, my friend. Hope all is well. It is a little early there, late there, early. Okay. He's in Tokyo, so, I don't know what time it is there, but it's either early or late, or both. This was a question in my tag, but I'm very curious for both of these. Interpret this however you want to, in terms of either somebody that you feel very connected to. Sam, I think I probably got an idea for you. Well, maybe not. The question is an artist that you deeply, deeply miss, that you feel some sort of like emotional connection to, that has passed, that you just feel, again, that emotional connection to, right? Whoever that person is, that you're just like, damn, like I really wish they were still here today, for all these reasons.
Jason, you go.
Okay. First thing that came to mind is actually an artist that I probably started to love a lot more in the last couple of years of their life. And I still think they're fantastic. I'm not thinking too deeply about this, but the first thing that came to mind was Chris Cornell, because I think that his voice is one of the best out there for rock. I think Chris Cornell's voice, I recently picked up Super Unknown. I think when he's doing those background vocals on Black Hole Sun is some of my favorite vocals to listen to. I think he had some crazy power in there, but power balanced really super well with emotion. That I think it sucks that he's gone, because I think just like Eddie Vedder, I think he would have continued to push. I think he would have had a career like until the day he died, and it's obviously really tragic the way he went. I think I'll choose Chris Cornell for that one. I could have chose John Bonham, but as soon as I thought of John Bonham, I'm like, yeah, but Zeppelin, I prefer they ended at when they did versus try to carry on and maybe become really shitty, right? So I think Bonham not that I want Bonham to die, but I think I'll just stick with Cornell.
And heartbreaking, right? You mentioned that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just tragic, right?
Same thing here, Catherine. I'm curious for, I guess all of us. Chris Cornell is obviously a great answer, and Sam, I have an idea of where you're going, but I'll let you go. It's interesting. There's like this sense of connection of missing people, even though they were gone long before we were a part of anything that they did. And John Denver for me is one of those people, right? Like I think about the type of person he would have been, and like the impact he would have made for people. And I think also his story, like, well, I'm not going to go down like conspiracy theories here, but like plane crash, but also was in like the deepest, darkest, shittiest time of his life.
Yeah.
With divorces and with alcohol and a lot of other things. And so,
yeah.
And
with him too. We mentioned Jim Croce earlier. Croce had those 3 classic albums, and it's like he would have been, like right there with like someone like James Taylor, who's still out there doing his thing. Croce was in that group with Lightfoot and James Taylor and John Denver. And I think he would have, at Cat Stevens, he would have mellowed out like those guys do. But yeah, for me, it's somebody, again, it's not a surprise. There were 2 people on my list, one of whom was John Prine. But that
was going to be my pick for you.
I figured that. Yeah,
John Prine. Obviously, COVID took Prine from us. He was on a new comeback. He was selling out bigger stadiums. Bigger venues than he'd ever played before. And then people that are huge now, like Margot Price and Tyler Childers and Casey Musgraves, who are all like Prine disciples. Talk about his impact on them, and like they're out there killing it. And Prine put out that album Tree of Forgiveness in 2018, and he was working on he had written another song for a new album, and it was recorded in his living room. It's called I'll Remember Everything. It was released as a 45. But the thing with Prine is that when COVID hit him, it was kind of like, okay, I know that he's going, because he had cancer and everything. But the one that I just miss never saw him. I miss him. Like, it makes me sick sometimes thinking about it. Is Petty? It's Tom Petty.
Yeah.
That was just like one of the biggest shocks. I remember, like, that was like, I remember where I was when Prine died. But Petty, I was at work. I was working in a gift shop.
Because he was on tour, wasn't he?
He had just finished the 40th anniversary at the Hollywood Bowl. He died 2 weeks later, which is just, he was so full of energy. Like, there's footage of him doing American Girl at that show. You can see that he's in pain, but he's killing it. And the fact that he died, and like there were rumors that he was going to go do like a Wildflowers tour with the full album with all the songs that he didn't put on the record. They eventually made the box set. And he had these plans to do that. There were people he was going to work with, and like the next tour, he wanted to do more like club shows. And the fact that he died at 67 is just like nobody knew that he was sick. Nobody knew that he had struggled with certain things. That was the height of the opioid pandemic. But yeah, Petty, I still like, I'll watch a Petty video. Like today, CBS just did a story on a new country tribute album that came out. I think we talked about this the other day, Alex, on the other stream, where they interviewed some people, and I was like seeing footage of Petty, and I was like, man, why do I get emotional? Like, seriously, like getting emotional, like looking at this guy who I never saw, never met, but I know that he had so much more to give, and it kills me. I still can't believe he's gone, and that was 2017. It's been 7 years. So Petty is the big one for me. It still kills me.
That's well said, man. Like, it's weird. Like, why would you have a connection? And like, same with Cornell for me. It's like I never really was like I don't know the Soundgarden discography. I don't know their songs. I just know his voice and a few of the songs. But it just kills me that someone who had such great potential is like, man, you still had so much more to give. What the fuck?
Yeah, and I mean, there are so many, just going through these comments, so many.
There's a lot of good. There's a lot
great
of
answers. People I kind of forgot about. Just on a complete aside. Yes, of course I did. Always, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, people you forget about, right? And like, I have one I'll share, but immediate people that just come to mind too. I was pretty like. For a while after Neil Peart, because that was another thing that was kept very, he was always a very private person, and Rush is one of my favorite bands, and of course that just sort of, shot down any. You both are going to go at the same time. Go find your.
I'm here.
It was like, where's the man? One person could go at once, Jason.
I'm here.
God bless it. All right.
During the most emotional question.
My gosh, stream. Yeah. Sam's like, I gotta get my pesto.
Yeah.
That's Sam's DJ name, by the way, is Dick Pesto.
Dick Pesto. Dick Pesto. Get that checked out.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, by way of Steve at All the World's a Stage, who's no longer who cannot post comments and streams for whatever reason, who's texting Sam and I. Tommy Bolin is his pick. There's some. I mean, Ronnie James Dio. I mean, there's just so many of those that sort of just like rocked it. But for me, I think again going back to that point I made of like just these people that have this connection to you for some reason. And I don't know. He died 20 years ago at this point, and I kind of started really liking him back. I guess at this point it was maybe 15 years ago, so it was a number of years after he died. But I've always just felt such an emotional connection, and therefore such a heartbreak. And damn, I wish he was here. I would have given anything to see this guy and to see what he'd be doing. And that's Warren Zevon. For me, I think like the music aside, all those different things, to me, it was and it's still available every year. I watch it because I'm a nerd like this, but it was the last appearance he did on the David Letterman show.
Yeah.
He and Dave were really close friends. He had told Dave that he was the best friend his music ever had. He had sat in countless times for Paul Schaefer to be the musical director of the late night band when Paul couldn't be there. and they were just great friends and partner. You know, they're just great in that way. And you know, at the time that they did that last show, it was fresh news that he had like stage 4, some lymphoma thing, you know, lung cancer. And they dedicated the whole show like, hey, we're going to have one guest. It's going to be Warren. We're going to talk about it. Warren, as sick as he was, I think had a couple months to go, but he ended up, I think, going like maybe a year after that before he passed. But I mean, it is just it's an interview and a conversation that I feel like is so on brand for Warren, which is like, in one sense, it was like, dude, you're dying. And like you're owning, and everybody knows that you're dying, yet somehow you're sitting here making jokes. Like it was like that sense of like, you know, he asked him like, you know, what do you know now? You know, all those different things. And he's, you know, he's talking about advice that he would give people. And it was just enjoy every sandwich. And I still use that, just like, let's just enjoy the sandwich sort of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, there's just some great stories. Apparently after that TV appearance, he gave Dave his like guitar, and he was like, thank you so much for being, you know, the best friend my music ever had. And this very emotional thing. And again, like somebody I never obviously saw. He was gone, you know, and this is a heart-wrenching record too. This is The Wind, basically what he was recording as he was dying, and knew he was dying. And so he wanted to record a record with all of his friends. And so yeah, I mean, just breaks my heart all the time. Wish he was still here, and someone I just really, really miss, even though I never connected with while he was here. So, yeah. You know, the Wind is very. We were talking about this before. Is very similar to Black Star in that sense. Or what's the Leonard Cohen his like death record? You know.
Yeah. He had a couple.
Similar. What's that?
Well, that's what he had a couple. Cohen did that he recorded like in his bed, essentially.
Yeah.
Really?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
You like it harder, bigger. Okay.
Well, here's a question to kind of like piggyback off that. Who's an artist that you miss who hasn't put out music and like doesn't tour or anything like that? That still could. For me, obviously, I mean, again, an obvious choice for me is Tom Waits, who he hasn't had an album since like 2011. He hasn't toured since that tour, like the Glitter and Doom tour. He's acted in some things. Like he was in Licorice Pizza, the movie. He was in The Ballad of Buster Suggs, which was the Coen Brothers movie. Yeah. But he hasn't put out any music. I mean, and speaking of Letterman, he was on one of like that last month that Letterman was on. He was getting like the best guests out there. And Waits came on. He did an original song that he wrote for Dave. It was so gut wrenching. It was beautiful. If you haven't heard it, it's called One Last Look. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. But I miss Tom Waits. I want Tom Waits to give us another record. I think, and I think Profi actually mentioned this. How cool would it be if Tom Waits came and like hooked up with Rick Rubin and did an album with Rick Rubin? I think they'd be a perfect pairing. So anyway,
give him a little Johnny Cash treatment. Yeah,
Johnny Cash treatment for sure. Yeah.
Damn.
So
that's a good answer. I don't know it. I can't. No one comes to mind, but I'm sure there's someone out there that is kind of in that quasi-retirement stage. And shoot, I want to think on that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? We're back. Yeah, I was still kind of thinking about like people who we miss that just haven't done, you know, anything in a while. Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one. You know, I think there are people who are doing like other things. Like I would love to see. I mentioned this before. Like Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple do something other than some of the weird like medieval Renaissance fair stuff that he's doing and has done the last like 20 years seemingly. But yeah, I was trying to think of the people who just sort of like went off to the sunset and was like, we're done, you know?
Yeah.
Or, you know, Sam, I don't know. He posted something. What was it that Brian Wilson posted today? Wasn't there something that was posted today on his channel?
The Ding Dang. Yeah, I'm not sure what that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not deep into the Beach Boys lore. I don't know if it has to do with because Ding Dang is a song from the album Love You, which was like kind of like a lot of people call like one of like the earliest like lo-fi records. It was when Brian came back from his hiatus with them. So I don't know if we're going to be getting like a Love You remaster or something like that. I'm not 100% on what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, Edward was a tough one too because there was all the talk about reunions and him and Sammy making it right, and apparently they did make it right and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, I totally agree, Trevor, man. Yeah. Hey man, what's happening? Glad you're here, buddy. I'd like to see them do something. They can call it whatever they want to. They can just call it Getty and Alex fucking around. I'll go see it. Oh gosh, I have not heard about Portishead in a long time. That's a great answer too.
Yeah.
Is that Ding Dang's just new merch?
Was that his? That wasn't his like vegetable shop, was it? When in the 70s?
Yeah, or I don't know. This is a great answer. We were talking about that. Jimmy hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
Well, and we were talking about this, like, not to bring up, David Gilmour's releasing another solo album later this year, which is great. I'm sure it'll be awesome. I'm sure I'll pick it up. But I think, like, what he, as the owner of Pink Floyd from 87 to technically 2024.
Technically, yeah.
I don't know that a lot was given to us.
No.
Brian over here talking Giant Whites fan here. Would love to more music. Super satisfied with what he's produced. Love him so much. Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with him being retired. I mean, that's great, but I know that he's healthy. And saying that song on David Letterman, and that he's doing acting and everything. So I'm just curious as to like what it was. If it was just like a quiet retirement. Yeah.
That's a good call too. That would be nice. Heart with a new album. Yeah, that's been a few years, and they still rock, man. I'd get into that.
Yeah.
New call for David Crosby.
Ooh, nice one.
Yeah, that was a bit of a shock too. Sam, is it back to you?
Who did you ask the last question about?
I did. I was about the artist that we missed, and then you piggybacked off of that one.
Right.
Indeed. Okay, so all right, what is a record in your collection that you would consider like your biggest like sleeper record? Like, what was the album that took a while to cook and you were like, oh, okay, here it is? And again, obviously for me, it was Pet Sounds. Like, I'll listen to Pet Sounds probably a dozen times before it clicked. And I was like, oh, okay. Which is more than I give a lot of records now, especially. But that was in college. And I remember listening to it going back and forth to school on CD. And then, I saw that movie Love and Mercy, which I just rewatched a couple days ago, actually, which is so good. Newfound appreciation. I saw Brian in 2016. Again, I've said that a million times on the Pet Sounds tour with Al Jardine. But Pet Sounds, when it clicked, it was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. I know why I like this. I know why these songs are what they are. I can see why it wasn't a hit record in the 60s. I can see why Capitol put out the greatest hits like 2 months later to kind of save their butts for, essentially failing with this record. But then over time, that was a sleeper album in itself to the public. It was like that album wasn't appreciated till later on. And then, like it was put out with the double with, Carl and the Passions, and then kind of got new fame in that regard, 6 or 7 years later.
Yeah.
So for me, it was Pet Sounds. I mean, there are other ones that are out there that, like, there are artists out there like Jason Isbell is one who has been a sleeper artist on me. Didn't really get into him at all. Once I did, I was like, okay, I can see why people like him. So I'm interested to hear what y'all have to say.
Well, is this a sleeper album for us personally, or does it necessarily have to be an album that everyone already knew was great? Or is
No,
it
it can be
just
it can be a sleeper album for you. I mean, for me, it happened to be one that was like on like the Rolling Stone list. Like what's an album that like you hold in high regard now that you didn't really think twice about?
okay? I'm just going through my friggin' collection on Discogs here to get a better answer for you. Oh shit, that's a great question. That is really good. Go ahead,
While
Alex. If
you're
you have one, yeah.
feel free to scroll, Jason. I'll jump in. It's funny. My boy Richard. My answer was going to be this. I mean, this was one of the first things that came to mind. I mean, it's maybe not my favorite. I know Pet Sounds is your favorite record of all time, Sam, but not sure this is my favorite record ever, or even a top 10 or 15 or even 20. But I had heard so many people talk about Loveless as this, amazing sort of cornerstone of the genre of dream pop / shoegaze and some other stuff. And I had listened to it so many times, I just could not get it. And I think after listening to some other stuff within the genre, I went back to it a bunch of times, and now I've have grown to love it. I still don't have it on vinyl though, so the people out there, feel free to send me a copy of it. But yeah, I mean, that was one of the first things, Richard, that came to mind for me was Loveless. So I could totally get that. We're on the same page.
I would go with, I'm not quite through the list here yet, but the first thing that came to mind was Ziggy Stardust. I obviously I knew who Bowie was, and I knew like the major hits, and then I found a collection I was able to sift through, and I got a bunch of Bowie albums, like half a dozen or so. And the last couple times I put Ziggy on, I was like, holy shit, man! Like every song is great on this. Like I friggin' think that's my favorite Bowie album. It's fantastic. And I'm totally like, I guess the question is, like, what album am I late to the game on? In that sense, I am very late to the game on Ziggy and how great that is. Ziggy Stardust, I'll put that on. It's to the point now in my collection that it's like an album that I'll kind of hold back on playing because I have it in such high regard that I don't want to overplay it. And that's kind of just a weird quirk I have. It's something that I really love. I won't put on too often. But so Ziggy's my answer for that one.
It's a great answer.
Dang, Jason.
Yep.
I don't have Hunky Dory.
Yeah, Hunky Dory's great. You need Hunky. Yeah, and a lot of people have ended up liking that. I think looking back more retroactively on that, Trevor. Dope. Well, that was a quick one. Good job, boys. Giggity. Jason, you're up, brother.
Oh shoot. Okay. Let me see. Where's my list here? Okay. Make another quick. Well, actually, no. It doesn't really piggyback on that much, but it's more so than my other question. So, what artist were you a complete diehard fan for, but have since either come to loathe them or simply just don't care to listen to them anymore? Like someone that you were a diehard for, and then now you're like, I don't want to make the time for them. Maybe because you hate them, maybe because you don't hate them. And I'll just give you my two quick answers, and they both meet each of those kind of possible answers. Is like the one that I just don't want to make time for, and the one that I would make time for, but I don't know. I just don't like. I love Dave Matthews Band, but I don't listen to Dave Matthews Band much anymore. I have like I have the Dave and Tim vinyl. I have his Dave solo album Some Devil on vinyl. I have every CD up until before Carter Beauford died, or no, Leroy Moore died. But I haven't really listened to Dave much forever. He's always going to have a special place because he was like the dominant character in my music story for a long time. So that was one artist, and the other artist that since some controversy came out about them, and I'm not taking any kind of a moral stance necessarily, but I just don't seem interested in listening to Arcade Fire anymore. And I was a big Arcade Fire fan.
Wow.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of their CDs. I don't know anything on vinyl. I was about to buy a bunch of vinyl stuff.
Is it all about the suburbs, Jay?
I like the suburbs. I have that on CD. I think there's a couple songs on that I freaking love. And then the Will Butler stuff came out a couple of years ago. And
what happened? I didn't hear about that.
Well, I think he got like, anyone in the peanut gallery, forgive me, I don't know the facts here, and the press doesn't maybe know all the facts either.
That's
but
all right. That
I
doesn't
think,
change anybody
yeah,
else.
yeah, sure. The idea is that I think Will was accused of some kind of either sexual assault or sexual harassment against some women, and I'm not trying to take any kind of moral high ground or anything like that here, but I just kind of got a little bit turned off by a
Yeah.
band that, and I just haven't been driven enough to go after them ever since.
Yeah.
But I was a big fan. Like, I have, Funerals, that album there, and Neon Bible, and Suburbs. But yeah, I just kind of stopped listening to them.
That's tough, man.
Like, who did
Sam,
you
if you're
like
thinking-
that you don't listen to anymore? It doesn't mean that you don't like them, or it's just someone that just sort of fell off your listening radar
Yeah,
for
I
whatever
mean,
reason.
this probably doesn't answer it, precisely, but I loved it when I was growing up. High school, college. My buddies and I were all about this band. I saw them back in 2009, I think. I am all about advocating for the brilliance and amazing quality that is those first 4 Coldplay records. I love those records. I remember it's funny that people are mentioning like U2 because Coldplay was kind of advertised as like the new U2 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I played Rush of Blood to the Head and X and Y to death. Parachutes came later because Parachute, I mean, it's a very different sort of record for them. But it's so funny. You listen to Parachutes versus anything that they've done in the last 15 years. It sounds like a different band entirely. But I remember seeing them on the Viva La Vida tour. Great show. I mean, I was all in on Coldplay, but they were a band that fell off for me. What was it? Whatever record Paradise was on. Paradise. Yeah.
Is that X and Y?
No. Was it? It wasn't X and Y. It was whatever the record was after Viva La Vida.
Was it called Paradise?
No.
Exoto.
It might have been Milo Xyloto. It might have been that.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of they just became, to me they fell into, truthfully, like when I listened to both Parachutes, Rush of Blood to the Head, they were like piano based alternative rock. It was songs like Politic, Amsterdam. These were like these dark sort of piano driven songs. X and Y definitely introduced more of a alternative, some more spacier type of tunes that I still really liked. And then Viva La Vida certainly marked the transition into like a poppier sound, but I still liked that record. And then after that, it was like anytime, maybe this sounds oversimplified, but it's true. Anytime a band that seems less of a band and more of a solo group sort of thing, it's like people bring up, like, I think it's a fair point, bring up like Maroon 5. What was that?
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Like
Songs About Jane. Is that it?
Yeah.
It's like they were like a band there. They were cool. They were funky. They were good singer-songwriters. Yeah. And then you're like, wait a minute. I thought they had a drummer. Why is there a drum machine on this?
Yeah, what is Moves Like Jagger? Yeah.
Right. Like, what does that mean? So I was a big Coldplay fan.
That's a good one. It's a good one.
For a long time, and then wasn't. Oh, let's check it out. Ooh, what's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I have a full answer to that because, I mean, I don't think there's anybody that like I was like a mega fan of that like I just dropped off. I mean, obviously, like when I was a kid, I mean, I like to think that like I loved like the boy bands, but like I really just had like the greatest hits. Like I wasn't like a mega fan. And even like still like there were never bands that I was following and then just like completely just like shut it off. The closest one that I can think of maybe is they're kind of like a soulful funk rock kind of band. They're called Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
Yeah.
Like if you like big horns, if you like, soulful vocals, that kind of stuff. There you go.
Okay, hiccup. Jesus.
Yeah, sorry. That's what 4 beers will do.
Okay.
But that self-titled album is called Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. like it was really, really good. But for me, like the vocals, like I didn't understand a lot of the vocals, like in terms of like I just didn't know what they were saying. Just like how it was produced, how the volume was on the record. And then he put out an album a couple of years ago. It was called "And It's Still All Right." It was like a solo record, very mellow, very, very like singer-songwriter, like moody kind of stuff. It was not at all soulful. And I was like, "Oh, that's a cool record." And now like the Night Sweats, I put out a couple other records between those records, and it's like I like that album that I have. I like the solo album, but like I don't necessarily need to like fill my catalog with them. Even though they're fantastic, if I saw them live, I would love it. I know I would, because they're right there with all those bands that I love in that genre, like the Avett Brothers, and like they're always like on festival bills with those guys. But something about that self-titled like debut by the Night Sweats, just like it was good, but you know, I'm like that's all I need from them right now. Like maybe one day it'll click for me and they'll be, you know, too late for me to really get into them because they're all be old, but you know, I don't know.
This is a great answer right here. No, for sure. I mean, that was a story for so many people there. Styx's last two records are fantastic. But yeah, I mean, they were pretty, you know, off for 20 years or whatever it was, or 15 years. So yeah, that's a great question. That's good stuff. That was you, Jason. Yeah.
You're welcome. I'm the best.
Yeah. No, I mean that's that's a good point. You know, I just be worried that it would just be taken up with all their, you know, their stuff or their recent stuff, right? Like I feel like I don't know. This is probably overgeneralization, but I feel like a lot of people who are into Coldplay now. Like I'd be curious. Actually, I should check this. I should look up like a recent Coldplay show and look up their set list. I'd be very curious what they play. You know, if they play like
they have a new record coming out too.
Right. You know, I get it. They're going to play some new stuff. They're going to play stuff off their last several records, and so. But I also want, you know, do they just play clocks?
I'm looking.
Do they play? You know, Spies was a great song,
and they're one of these people. Like they're one of these bands too. Like they incorporate a lot of like pre-recorded stuff like in the show. Like not like they're not miming, but like stuff in like the background, like between sets.
Right. But that was never a thing.
I mean, like I see right now, like they do like Paradise, The Scientist, Yellow, Viva La Vida, Clocks, which they did that song, you know, like a few years ago with the Chainsmokers, something just like this. That's not Coldplay. That's Chris Martin with the Chainsmokers.
I think it's funny with Coldplay. Like one of my first points of reference is watching the video, and later in their career, I guess, is the video for Clocks, and he's at the piano, and the video is like a live concert kind of the piano. Yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ, like that is a wicked video. Like I was all in, like this song is great. Oh my God, because of the video.
Well, and then that's what I was getting at with like the piano based, you know, alternative stuff was like they were like Chris Martin was viewed as like, oh, he's like a cool singer with falsetto who also is a really great piano player. And you know what? He still might be, but that's, you know, I get the vibe now that it's like, go find a drum machine and, you know, it just, they kind of reek of, you know, what you would call, you know, like corporate room songwriting, right? Like,
because I mean, they're collaborating with like all these like Halsey and Beyonce, right. like they want to connect with whoever's huge at the time instead of doing their own thing. Which like you say what you want about YouTube, but they didn't fully get into that. I mean, their sound might have become very flat, and like, where's their drive? Like, did they lose the hunger? But Coldplay are still looking for like that radio hit, and like they just like as a result are like not like dumbed down their music, but like. Because like they did like a really kind of like experimental album, which I really liked. I think it was during COVID. I cannot remember the name of it for whatever reason, but it had like a lot of like Middle Eastern influence to it.
Wait, I'm sorry, who's that?
Coldplay.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Was it the Stars one? Something about the Stars? I had like the 12-minute song on it.
No.
The Prague people were like, Coldplay released a 12-minute song. You know, listen to Coldplay.
Yeah, what's it called?
What do you think of that? Kyle, I was the hip thing. I was making a joke about hip to be square. I wasn't saying it wasn't hip to like Huey Lewis. I was just saying, if you like Huey Lewis, man, that sounds hip or doesn't sound hip or whatever. I was making the hip to be square joke. Yeah, you get it.
Everyday Life was the name of the thing.
Oh, okay.
Really, really cool. It had a lot of like world music, very Paul Simon-y in some spots, which I liked a lot. But then like they went back to the mainstream. Like they did that album. I was like, oh, that's cool. They're using like world musicians on this thing. And like using like, Arabic music.
Yeah.
And I really got into it. But then again, they put out the last 2 or 3 albums. It's been like, all right, they're back to trying to hit the top 40.
Yeah. That's a great question. What did happen to Jet? Jet was cool. I mean, they had, the huge song. I always thought Cold Hard Bitch was one of the best, like, hard rocking songs of the early 2000s. That song freaking.
I thought that would have taken them further.
That song smokes, man. Yeah, I could see that, right? And that's why I say too. I mean, I'm not a fan per se of the last God, probably 4 or 5 records at this point. But like I said, Brian, man, I feel
like Nickelback stopped. I feel like Nickelback is the band to hate, and then Coldplay was like on that train, and then everyone kind of like backed off and said, "No, they're not that bad." It was
right.
like it was cool to hate Coldplay for a little bit, and then people I think kind of realized that no, they're not bad, but everyone was like, "Oh, Nickelback, let's hate them instead," which is okay.
Yeah, let's say when I was growing up though, because I remember in that whatever it was mid 2000s that Clocks was everywhere, right? What was funny is I feel like I remember hearing Clocks before I heard Yellow, even though Yellow came out before Clocks. And that was huge. I mean, for those who remember AOL Instant Messenger, I mean, the scientist was in every single bio of like every emotional fucking junior high kid ever, It's like no one said it would be easy, but no one said it would be this hard, Jason, and you're like, wow, put that in an away message.
Yeah.
But I said this before too. I also remember seeing I forget what the award show was, whether it was the Grammys or American Music Awards or whatever it was. Watching them do Talk. Talk was a track off X and Y, which is a banger. And Chris Martin's out in the crowd singing and the band is playing, and you're like, this is, to me, it was like a U2 meets like more edgy Radiohead type stuff. There was a lot of Radiohead there as well.
Oh, nice description, yeah.
But for sure. And then I think on X and Y, their lead single was Speed of Sound. And then people were like, this kind of just sounds like Clocks. But, man, we talked a lot about Coldplay. Is it my turn?
I go to the deli and get Coldplay for my sandwiches.
All right, then. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to think of. I had some questions that are just very similar to some of the other ones that are answered, but okay, here you go. The album. We'll go with album. If you can't identify a specific album, then just give me the artist is totally fine here. That you look at, not necessarily your favorite album of all time or the best album of all time or that you can listen to it forever a million times over, but the album / artist that you feel made you sort of fall in love with music, the thing that clicked for you, that you're like, oh, like this is I have an emotional connection to this. This is my jam. Whatever that is, what is that album or artist? If there's not a specific album for you.
That's a heavy question, man. That's huge.
Well, I'm a heavy guy, Jason. Okay.
So
I was like, your boy's got folds. Okay.
So is that that essentially saying what artist or album got you into music?
If that's your interpretation, there's not a quiz at the end of this, Jason. I mean, I'm saying, like,
I need more.
To me, I identify. Maybe this is just me. Like, it's like, to me, it's like there's times that you're like, oh yeah, music is fun, and then you heard the album, or you heard the band, and you're like, oh,
twiddle fingers.
Well, I think that comes down to you're right. You can interpret that any way you want. But for me, my first reaction is what is that? What is your favorite band? What was your first favorite band? Because that is the group that made you pay attention to music beyond just driving in your car. And I'll just start and finish my answer with.
Yeah, but
I'll
what
just
about
choose
her
Pearl
head in a
Jam.
box, Mike? Sorry.
What's in the
Sorry,
box?
Jason.
What's in the
I had
box?
to
in the
interrupt
box?
Jason.
What's in the
I had to
box?
interrupt your emotional story.
That's okay. That was a good reference.
There's never, listen, I could be in a fucking funeral for the closest person in my life. And if there's a box somewhere, I'm going to ask what's in the box in front of
The box.
Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
I'll just choose Pearl Jam. It's pretty obvious. There was a mixtape that I listened to, and I'm like, finally, I'm paying attention. The lyrics make sense to me at this moment in my life, at this point, and that switched my brain to start paying attention more to music.
Now, you say it was like a mixtape?
However,
so it's just like a comp, or like it wasn't 10? Like you didn't hear Pearl Jam 10, but you heard like a mix, yeah?
It was a mixtape that my best friend at the time, his girlfriend made for him. He loans it to me, and for over a year, I kept it. I didn't want to give it back. And most of the songs were from 10 up until some kind of no code songs were on there. Yeah, that was it, up till no code. Now, that wasn't my first favorite band. I liked the Doors a lot. For some reason, I went to the Doors. But my first band that, I started start paying attention now was Pearl Jam. I don't really have an album. It was literally this mixtape. It had blue and orange stripes on it. I remember it vividly. I regret eventually giving it back to him because that would have been a great keepsake to have.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've said it 1,000,001 times. Again, like I was listening to stuff, I had Beach Boys greatest hits, I had Beatles greatest hits, I had, boy bands. I was listening like Disney songs, like any kid, Sesame Street, I had early influences in music. My dad was listening to big band a lot, and that kind of stuff, crooners. But for me, the album that got me into music was Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. I mean, that was it. That got me through 8th grade, which is like when a lot of people are getting into music when they're 13 or 14, when they want to kind of break their own personality, make themselves unique. And yeah, like I was going to a very rigorous type school where I didn't know I was falling behind. And listening to Jason.
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 All right, go ahead.
There he goes. Well, never mind.
No, he unmuted himself. Stop it.
Jason. There you go.
Jason, you're fucking up, man.
Put those headphones in, boy. Jason turns 60 years old tomorrow.
He just gave up.
Subscribe to Jason Arsenault. No,
yeah, he's great.
No, I mean that was the record that got me into. Oh,
okay, I'm here.
Are you sure?
Maybe.
Yeah, Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. That's the record that got me through many a long night of studying in 8th grade.
Wow.
And again, branched me out to get into Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, all that stuff. So that's the record. It's a no-brainer for me. Easy peasy, lemon teasy.
Yeah. You can tease my lemons any day of the week, sire.
Boy.
What? No, well, and I've told the story a bunch with like the first band I really fell in love with was Def Leppard and all that kind of stuff, right? Like that's what turned in like the oh cool, like I know this song from the radio and I can remember the words, but like they were like the deep dive, right? They were like I got to figure out who's in the band, I got to figure out when this was written, I got to figure out who wrote it, all those different things. But I guess for the sake of the question, the one I will go with today, I was listening to this earlier this evening, actually, just in preparation. Because I remember buying back when people used to buy concert DVDs, and that was like the big thing of like, man, you can buy a DVD and watch the show. This is crazy. I remember buying this when I was probably 16, 17 and watching it so many times. And it was like a 3-hour show. It was like a 3-hour show. And I would play this and watch this so much. And I would listen to it so much. And I still listen to it. And I was really happy to snaggletooth it on vinyl. I guess maybe a year ago or so, just because it was one of those things that got the mid 2000s kind of like, well, just anything actually on vinyl mid 2000s wasn't a thing, especially in like metal world. You would get like music on vinyl would do some very limited pressing of it, and then that was it, sort of thing. But the thing that just changed the game for me in so many ways and just opened up the doors to everything that I love about music and everything now was Dream Theater Score. So this is their 20th anniversary show that they held at Radio City Music Hall in New York City in 2005, I guess, 2004. A Rhino release. I just, it's one show, 4 LPs. It includes a entire orchestra. It includes, it's like the best set list ever. They play every song. They play a song from each album they released up to this point. It is just like everything that everybody ever wants in a live sort of retrospective release. And again, I just remember watching it so many times and listening to it so many times. It just that to me, even though like I say, like, Def Leppard was the first band I ever loved and needed to know everything about, for me it was all about that record that opened my eyes and ears to so much else that I didn't previously have any idea about. So that'll be my answer to that question.
I gotta say, so for the Peanut Gallery there, Alex had sent a video earlier today to our little Menage group chat, and he had Dream Theater playing in the background. Alex, what song was that?
Which one, the first one or the second one?
The second one that you had played for us there.
Oh, the second one was a song called "The Spirit Carries On."
That was the one with there was two today. I don't know. There was a solo on one of the two videos. Yeah. That was very David Gilmour-esque in my, Peanut mind. Like it was very ethereal and very high level kind of guitar solo. It was incredible. I got to say, like I was listening to that, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is great fucking music. Like no surprise. I know you listen to good music, but
thank you. Yeah,
it
was probably that second one. I mean,
I think it was.
Yeah, the track "Spirit Carries On" has sort of become their. I don't want to use the word like power ballad, but it's definitely their sort of like emotional songwriting for the song, and not necessarily let's just showcase how.
I love the video, but that song in the background, I was like, the whole time I loved the video and what you were doing in the video was like great, but that song, man, was like really good. Like I was impressed.
I love it. Well, thank you, Jason. Look who's here.
Anthony.
Hey,
Gambler 812 coming to you from Boston.
Mr. Boston.
Oh, the world champions, huh? My guy. Now, Sam, I got to ask you. When he says, for myself, getting into other genres, started with SADE. How do you pronounce that, Virginia?
Sade.
Apparently it's Sade.
Yeah, and it's Sade, and even other people will actually throw in like an extended R in there too. We'll say it's Sade.
Oh, like the building in London.
That's it.
Yeah.
Leaning Tower of Chart. All right, so yeah. Well, look at you go there, James. I almost called you Jimmy, but I didn't want you to get offended by that. Look, I've been talking about this, and Rob's not here, but this is a shout out to Rob. The other Swiftie. I know, James, you're a big Swiftie. What are we waiting? How at some point have they not put out an Eras Tour? Give me an Eras Tour quintuple LP box set with a poster, with a booklet, with all the pictures, with all the shit. Charge whatever you want, and all the dumb people like me, you, and Rob are going to buy it, and it's going to be great for everybody.
Yes. Enjoy.
Yes. So there's that. Well, hey, look, I know you two are busy. You got wives and kids and other shit going on. I have nothing. I'm good to keep going, but if you two got to go, you tell me. We're at the 2-hour mark, and so I'll defer to you all.
Jason, what you got?
I got another question.
Hell yeah. That's a fucking question.
It's not a very good one.
All right, let's see what.
Okay, this is more of the audiophile related kind of era.
Oh, that's good for Sam. He loves these.
I know. Okay, if you had like the supreme overlord control of one of the following, what would it be? Would you control a pressing plant? And I'm thinking along the lines of like quality control. So you buy a new record, it's warped, it fucking sucks, it pisses you off. Would you control the mixing and mastering? So you're in the studio with the artist, maybe you're doing the mixing, or we'll kind of extend it to the production aspect where you're doing the mastering.
Yep.
Or would you be in charge of packaging and design? And at that point, you're in charge of what the jacket looks like. Is it a gatefold? Is there inserts? Is the gate like, and I brought an example here, like the best example out in the market right now of what it looks like when you do a high-end quality production value. So would you do the pressing plant? Would you do the mixing or mastering? Or would you do the person who does the actual, liner notes and the thing itself?
That's a great question.
So my example is, and anyone that's a bit of a nerd with the audiophile stuff is going to know for sure that Acoustic Sounds, Chad Kassam, and all that shit, they do pretty high end stuff.
Casey Kasem.
I know. So I have this, and I chose this for you and Emma, mainly for Emma, because it's a friggin' fantastic blues album.
We're a package deal, Jason.
That's right. And and there's a lot of examples that I have other stuff as well, but like there's some great albums, and I have a bunch of blues albums, and they all have wicked liner notes. Like I've had there's also a few that Garrison did that that's sold through Noble Records as well, that have amazing liner notes that really make the album stand out. Like I can't say enough about a quality story in the liner notes. Anyway, so I would probably, if I had to choose a three, I would probably choose that, because at the end of the day, you want to educate people on why this artist is great. And that's what liner notes do, right? You don't read liner notes to hear how shitty someone was. You hear how great they were.
What about those sleeves,
though, Jason? So pressing plant, so you're going to get a great record, or a mastering engineer, so you're going to get the best balance and all that kind of stuff that goes with that nerdy shit, or you're going to get your packaging. What would you want to be in charge of for all the records that come out?
Before that, I want to know that was a nifty sleeve you had there, Jason. Could you show us a little bit more about that sleeve? Maybe where you got
Bob, if you're out there, that's Vinyl Storage Solutions. If you
the VSS.
I don't know what his code is. 10% of I don't know. But that's it too. So you like Chance or you like Rob, and one of them will get you a discount.
Samwise, what do you think, brother?
I mean, for me, for my mind, like how I go about things in terms of like the technical aspects, I think I would be terrible with like mastering and that kind of thing if I had control over it. Because again, I'm not an audiophile, but I do enjoy writing quite a bit. So liner notes for me are really, really cool to read. I love these albums that come out with notes about this and that, who's playing, where the songs came from in terms of like their their mental idea of it. So because like there were a lot of albums even now, like I just got two records in the mail. One of them was Mike Campbell and the other one was Oliver Wood from the Wood Brothers. Neither one had liner notes, and I'm like, here's Mike Campbell, who is this historical figure in the music world. I would think that there would be like something there, like like I wrote this song, when I was backstage with Petty, or whatever it might be. Like I don't know. So definitely liner notes, definitely that aspect of it. The sleeves, like because I hate the Oliver Wood record I just got. The sleeve and the inner sleeve was split in the middle, and there was like almost like a gash on the dead wax on the outside. So cut from like the mailer or whatever it might be. Mailer.
Yep.
Hardly do her.
So,
okay. So Sam, before you continue on here, Sam, I just got this in the mail yesterday. I was going to send you a picture. I never did. So they re-released this. This is the Lord Huron double EP, right? So the Into the Sun and the Mighty EP.
I don't know that.
They just it announced like a month ago, or not even a month ago, a few weeks ago. I ordered it like right away the day I got the email.
Yeah.
Beautiful, some kind of weird brown vinyl, whatever. But a great example of a total fucking failure when it comes to liner notes. There was nothing in this. This album came in a friggin' paper sleeve, which from the nerd point of view is a total no-no. I put it in this beautiful, beautiful vinyl storage solutions clear sleeve. And in any event, like, that's why, like, I don't know, man, like, if I was an artist, and I don't know, like, totally ignorant here, I have no idea what power the artist has or what say they have in how their actual literal vinyl is put out to the market, right? It could be totally out of their hands. They could be like, here, management team, I want this album to go out to the public. Of course, you decide how it's done. Like, does it actually come back to the artist and the band and say, hey, are you willing to spend an extra 35 cents per album to make sure that this package is just pristine?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if that decision ever gets to the artist. And I would like to know that. And I bet you it's not. I bet you it's more of a case by case basis. I don't think it's probably, across the board, right? I bet you every artist has their own contract with their management team as to how they market their product. But at the end of the day, this was a very disappointing frigging thing to arrive in the mail. I haven't put it on my table yet. I think it's even warped, not to a very bad level, but it's like paper sleeve, no liner notes, just one jacket. Even the label on the record is like cheap and shitty, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's sad when that happens. It's like the liner notes are telling you what I've assumed the artist wants you to know about the album, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. There's my little fucking soapbox. Sorry.
No, I agree. Like that was the issue that I had with the Pet Sounds RSD reissue was $40 for a non-gatefold sleeve. It was like with nothing there. So yeah. Especially with vinyl, just even like the basic vinyl going for like $27-$28. And then you have these like 180 grams or limited editions. You want something else if you're paying $40, $50, $60 for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Jason, did you say that Lord Huron was a double EP?
Yeah, so they did two EPs and they just kind of combined them one side of the album for one for the other. And when I read the promo email that I got, I thought it was going to be a double album just because the way it was worded. My bad. I just assumed, but that was a pretty disappointing. I haven't played it yet tonight. I'll put it on and spin it and see how it sounds. But
I was going to say the most famous double EP since Magical Mystery Tour.
I'm disappointed. Like the cover itself has one of those, like, when you flick it one way, you see one image, you turn it the other, it's another image. So that's like kind of cool, I guess. But
cute.
Cute, very good. That's a good condescending way to put it. It was cute. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know what to expect from the sound quality, but the packaging was just fucking an embarrassment.
Sorry, I was just going through some stuff here to see, this is packaged. I guess that's the thing, right? Is like at the end of the day, if a place, so I think of like the Blue Note Classic versus the Tone Poets, right? So like,
yeah,
Blue Note Classic I think now retails for $27.99. Tone Poets are $30. So let's just say $28 and $40.
So beautiful. The Tone Poets are beautiful.
Tone Poet, right? Great gatefold. It still probably has like the little like crack when you open it up.
It does. I'm reluctant to open it fully.
Yeah, it's beautiful, right? But like you realize like that is what you're paying for, right? And it's like some people will buy like the classic series and they'll be like, oh, this sounds so great, but really I just wish they would use like a higher quality sleeve. And I'm like, well, you can get a higher quality sleeve. It's just not going to cost you $27. That's like the give and take of what you pay for. But what gets me is like, I don't mind the $35 or the $40 purchase, provided that, okay, ooh, it's a gatefold. Ooh, there's some liner notes. Ooh, maybe there's like a full. I've fallen in love with the booklets, man. I think the booklets are the coolest, right? Like, I pulled this for a different question I had, but I've showed this times with the Peter Gabriel record.
Yeah.
And so I remember when this went on sale, it was like $40 or $45 American, which is probably fucking $70 up by you. Okay, cool. So we get a double LP. Cool, whatever. We have polyline sleeves. We love that. Great, cool. We get the good gatefold, right? We love a gatefold. There's nothing really in there, but it's a gatefold. We we get the OB, whatever. But to me, where does it go? Where'd it go? Come back. To me, it's like the magic here is it comes with an actual like whole ass book, right?
Nice.
Like whole ass booklet that goes through the art of every like song and person and artist that they like worked with, and goes through the lyrics, the artist, like all that shit, right? Like I looked at that and I'm like, yeah, I realize like that costs money, you know, like to do that costs money. And as a collector and a listener, that's important to me, right?
I kind of want to believe that, and this is just a very naive thing to say, because clearly I have no idea what it's like to be a musician or a star and all that stuff. I would like to believe that the musician or the band wants what you just said. Like, I want to put out a product that's going to give my fan base XYZ. And yet you get some albums that are the exact opposite, which are just like, you know, a single jacket with a paper sleeve in it and like no information whatsoever. Why would you not want to? Because at the end of the day, there's no way the artist is being tasked with the chore of putting together liner notes or a package. It's like they simply have to say, I'm going to relinquish X many cents per album for my fan base to have a better physical media experience. I don't know, whatever. Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
it's their dollar.
You know, it's one of those things interesting, right? Like, I'm sure you get those artists that grew up on vinyl, right? And they remember what it was like opening that gatefold and reading liner notes, and they want to pay tribute to that, right? I think you also, I'll share this with you, Jay. I'll share this with you and everybody watching. That, you know, one of my favorite bands ever is the War on Drugs. I love the War on Drugs. Are you going to see
them in October?
I mean, they put on a great show. I love them, and I love the records that they released, right? But they did like a special vinyl pressing of one of their latest records, like some box set sort of thing, right? And Adam, their, you know, like lead singer, songwriter, does basically everything. He's doing an unboxing because that's like the hip thing to do, right? Is like the band does the unboxing of their own product. And I know that this is like one of those things, but like, you know, he opens it and like holds the record like this, like completely gravels it. And I don't say that of like, what a fucking dick. He doesn't know. I don't mean that disrespectfully in that way. What I mean by that though is that clearly that is not an important part for him.
Well said.
Like,
well said. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
you're not shitting on him, but you're saying that is not like he doesn't care on that level. That's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's okay.
Thank you.
I get
and
that.
so it's like, you know, he's not over there calling the shots from the label or from the packaging department. Like, you know, it's like somebody who grabs on a record like that is not going to be like, put them in, you know, polyline sleeves, you know?
Yeah.
I also, you know, it's like one of these things. We've talked about this before. I think you and I have, Jason, as Sam figures his life out. Like, you know, people like us make up like less than 2% probably of like, you know, so you know, for every
and it's very healthy for you to remind me of that now and then.
It's like I'm sitting here thinking of like the 17-year-old who opens up their first piece of, you know, their first vinyl record, you know, and they're just ecstatic to have whatever they just bought, whether it's, you know, a pop artist or a rock artist, whatever it is, and them sitting there going, oh, this is really great, but they should have used rice paper inners. You know, nobody except us fat fucks are saying that shit. You know what I mean?
I remember the first 2 CDs I ever owned, and I'm never 100% sure what I got first, was Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, Smashing Pumpkins, which had a beautiful, like a CD, had a beautiful booklet inside. And then I had like the Doors' Greatest Hits, which had nothing inside. I'm like, why are these two things so drastically different? I didn't think about that at the time, because rightfully it was about the music, and, you know, kudos to Mazzy, right? That's his little thing, right? But I guess at the end of the day, when I ask like the audiophile related questions, I say it a little bit tongue in cheek, because I know that at the end of the day, the music is what matters. But part of me is like, I'm paying a lot of money for this when I could be paying absolutely
that's part
nothing.
of the physical media experience, though.
Yeah. And I could pay, and I am still paying Apple Music, X many dollars a month to just have everything I want out there for next to nothing, right?
Yeah. Well, Richard, this was the big thing I think with Beyonce. James is talking about it down here that Beyonce had like a QR code of like, look, if you want to see the album notes, scan the QR.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's one way to do it. But yeah, I mean, that's I think if all it came down to was listening, then I would probably just stream, for my $16 a month and listen to whatever I wanted whenever I wanted. But
I got another question for the Peanut Gallery.
Yeah.
The Peanut Gallery. Apparently there's 18 of you, minus probably 3 of us. So there's 15 of you. I would like 15 answers on this one question. What do you think Sam is doing right now? I'm going to go with bowel movement. I don't know what anyone else is thinking.
Either that or shooting Spider-Mans, whatever it is.
Yeah. He's not looking for albums.
No. Pet Sounds has been laying out for a long time. Yeah, great.
Man. I can't say enough about our great Peanut.
That's one way of putting it.
Sam is scanning his Beyonce QR code. That's awesome. Oh man, you know what?
Getting that pesto out,
Or, you know what? Like Peanut Gallery, if you're listening right now, the 3 of us talk a lot about the people in the Peanut Gallery. We really do. We have our own little group chat. It's fantastic. It's very awesome. And there's nothing but positive things said about you guys. The fact that you're listening to our stupid nonsense here. Good answer, Anthony. I think that that's what makes this stream work, is that we're so tight with you guys. Please continue to make fun of Sam for us. Saint John contemplating life.
He's got to be making a sandwich.
Sandwich? No, because he'd be in his kitchen right behind there.
No, well,
I would say
the sandwich does sound good right now.
Is he restringing a banjo? I don't know.
My question is if he's on his phone, like, is he watching the stream right now from his phone?
I don't know. He's not texting us in our group chat right now, so we don't know what he's doing. He does not have his phone.
Jason, do you have any other questions over there?
The last question I have is, what is the biggest threat to the hobby of collecting vinyl?
Ooh.
I know it's a kind of a heavy.
We're doing like a SWOT analysis here.
I don't know. Like my answer kind of, that question followed when I was thinking of writing down the questions. It followed my last question, which is more on the audiophile production vein of things. There he is. What is threatening the collection, the idea of the vinyl hobby and collecting records? And I say that because I'm really frustrated with quality control. So that's kind of my answer to that question, is what is the problem right now? It really sucks. It really sucks. And it's always a gamble to buy a new vinyl record and not know how it's going to spin. When you go to a record store and you buy used vinyl, like 90% of the time, in my very limited experience, big asterisk there, it's flat. Right now, I get a record and it's a fucking gamble as whether or not it's going to spin flat or it's going to be so warped that my stylus is going to take a hit on it.
Yeah.
Not that I have a high-end system. I do not. But you're paying, especially in Canada, $40 to $60 a record. Like, you want a friggin' flat piece of plastic. So my answer to that is, what is the biggest threat is that the vinyl resurgence, which maybe has peaked and maybe has dropped, I don't know, is demanding so much quantity that the quality is failing, and ultimately people are going to start to get pissed off. Like, why am I paying for this when this looks like shit?
That QC is struggling. Yeah.
What's the question?
And maybe it's better. To be honest, like, I'll fall on the sword here. That comment in question is a bit of a dated concern. That we were talking about that a year ago, but whatever.
Yeah, I think. Well, are you at? Here I am. I'm like, are you asking? for the industry or for me as an individual person? Because
as an individual person, what is going to be the downfall of this, if there is one? I don't know.
I am poor and I have a 1-bedroom apartment and I have almost 3,000 records. And so I am physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually out of space. And so, but I got a lot of fucking records I want to.
A space cadet.
Yeah, I got a lot of records I want to buy. So I mean, that's for me, I guess. But you know, it is a physical space thing. You know what I mean? Like it takes up space. I mean, granted, I'll say this, right? Like I am alone. It's just me. I am alone and sad and lonely. You know, like it's just me. So it's not like I'm like, oh, like I better sell off my records to pay for my little boy's toy truck. Like, no, like I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna buy that record and then eat PB&J. But like, you know, I don't know. It is one of those things of I have not had. It's funny, Jason. I have not had the quality control issues that you and so many other people have spoken about. You know what I mean? Like, and for whatever reason, I not even from like the Amazons of the world. You know, people got these like horror stories of like Amazon, like, you know, somebody like spits and fucking comes on a record and then throws it at your fucking door. And like, and I'm like, no, man, everything I get, you know, it tastes pretty good. So I don't know. You know, like I've had very good luck, fingers crossed, with like the QC. I've never had to send anything back ever. I mean that but I also recognize like that's luck because I've heard so many stories of people who have not. So yeah.
What threatens our hobby, Sam? Anything?
What threatens the hobby?
Yeah.
I think stuff like TikTok threaten it. Simply because like kids or like that, like the next generation of music listeners are listening to 20, 30 seconds of songs, and that's what they're okay with. I think the idea of like a long playing record it's still relevant. I mean, you got to give Taylor Swift credit. Like her fans aren't going to skip her songs on her records.
Mm-hmm.
And people like that are still like the superstars. I mean, the Cowboy Carter record, people aren't going to skip, like diehard Beyonce fans aren't going to skip those songs. But when you have a new generation coming up that, are listening to 30-second snippets they recognize this clip of this song because it's, all over TikTok or Instagram or whatever. They don't even know who's singing it. It's like they're not going to go to the record store and be like, tell me who sings this 20-second piece of this song. So that's probably the biggest threat. And that's not me saying like, down with TikTok, because like that's not what I'm saying at all. Which I know it's like that's a big debate at the moment politically. But let's see.
That's a good comment.
Yeah.
If only, yeah.
It's
that's
such
like
a
very
weird
similar
hobby.
to like the
My
conversation
God,
about all these streaming services now. They're like, if only there was a way to just, take all these streaming services and what if you put it into like a big bundle and paid like $100 a month for it? And you're like, that would be cable. It's like, yeah. I don't feel tardy. Class dismissed. I'm guessing that was a Van Halen reference. But again, it's funny, Jason. That's a great question, Jason. You've been bringing the bangers tonight with these questions. But again, it's like, what are the threats to the vinyl for what, like the less than 1% of people who are on YouTube that care about quality control and pressing plants and, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's an interesting, I think that is like, you just mentioned like, oh, thank you for always bringing that up. That is something I always try to keep in mind of like, we represent such a small niche and even within our community, right? Take everybody who, when we say like the VC, like anybody who's on YouTube talking about music, I put in there, right?
The whole peanut gallery. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if whether they're talking about CDs or cassettes, like all those different, even within that community, there are very few people who are like examining dead waxes and looking for like the AD/01 versus the AD/001, like And so there's so many of those like very, very niche things where a lot of people are like, I just like listening to music, you know?
I know. And
It's just so funny in that way, right? But stuff that we love and get into and dive into.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, because most of the channels that we watch are just normal people. A lot of us, started collecting during COVID. A lot of us started channels during COVID, and we watch a lot of these people that have been collecting for years and years and years that we're taking advice from. That's kind of what the vinyl community has turned into. And again, like the vinyl community is something like that. I don't always even use the terminology because like that's so descriptive of one format. Whereas like my first, year of videos mostly revolved around CDs and box sets and that kind of thing. So it's definitely it's still a niche hobby, even though like we see it every day on our notifications that we get on our phones. But I mean, right now I don't see any threat to the hobby again because it's still like the number one form of physical media. Yeah, there you go. Hashtag coal mine record. Right?
That's it. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, a lot of great. Yeah, Optimal and
James,
RCI and QRP and. Go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
No, I just saw James's comment there. Hot take from James there.
Oh yeah.
Well, not hot. Lukewarm take.
Lukewarm.
No deal. Not hot.
Yeah. I love the nerdy audiophile aspect of the hobby. I know deep down that it's not about that, but it is fun to get wrapped up in it. I'd rather get wrapped up in that stuff than the drama of people bickering, which we know is a very lively component of the community, but whatever, of any community.
Yeah. Is it interesting that I think about this whole audiophile thing, not to go down this path, but it's not, to me, it's not as black and white as like we've made it seem of like, are you an audiophile or are you not? Because
very good point. Very good
to say that you're
I don't
not,
think I fit into one of those two, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you and I are probably the same in this regard, Jason. Like, do my ears perk up if I hear something was like, mastered or cut by Kevin Gray or pressed at Palace or one of those things of like, oh yeah, like I care about that. I do.
The thing I and someone, a very close person to me, said to me once, and I was talking about, I was trying to build this little rinky-dink table to put my stuff on. I was talking about trying to get this, this is next level nerdom. I had ordered these like hollow metal legs for this table off Amazon. I was like, I got to fill them up. I have to fill them up with sand because the resonance from the metal will be like blah blah blah. I'm like, and she's like, are your ears really gonna pick that up? I'm like, no, they're not. Like, you would need. Like, I have a very low budget. Like, not that I expect anyone to be watching me, but like, I don't have money to be an audiophile. Like, and I suspect that most people that watch this stuff and that most people that put this videos out probably don't have that level of money necessary to hear the differences between, specific pressing plants and things like that.
Yeah.
All I care about is that if I'm going to put money in and get up in Canada, it's a little more money. Like, if I'm going to put money towards this piece of plastic, I just want to make sure that piece of plastic is the right one. I'd rather spend $50 for the right one versus $40 for the one that is noticeably different. But then you have to ask yourself, is your system going to deliver that difference, right? I don't know. It's pretty complicated, but at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that if I put my money into something, I'm getting the best I can out of it. Yeah,
and even that more generally, right? Of like, do you get enjoyment when you put that record on? It's like,
yes,
it's like one of these things I've seen people bicker about. It. Is someone will buy a record, whatever it is, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I bought this record and I played it and I thought it sounded great." And the people will literally tell them that they're wrong. Like, they will be like, "No, it didn't sound great. Like, you're wrong." And you're like, no, like, I just bought the record and I put it on and it sounds good to me. And they'd be like, well, yeah, but you're a piece of shit. Like, you're wrong. You know what? That makes me think about my biggest pet peeve, like, back to our like initial question about YouTube and, what you would watch. My biggest pet peeve about the vinyl community and YouTube and it doesn't have to be a vinyl community, like, it can be about like opinion pieces and editorials. My biggest pet peeve is
the fact that we all have to, and I think of Mazzy every time, because poor Mazzy, who is, you know, and you said it, Alex, like I admire.
He's not poor, by the way. I want to
right. Good point. But he has to qualify everything he says with just my opinion, just my system, just my listening room.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. You're watching YouTube. This is free content from people that are like not experts. And I just hate the fact that we all have to qualify that before we give an opinion. This is an opinion from a regular Joe.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't stand the people that get, you know, the keyboard warriors that get involved and say, you're wrong. No, this is wrong. That is a terrible pressing of this. It's like, dude, like, I don't know what you kind of money and what kind of job you have, but I can't afford the system that was required for me to hear the difference that you're complaining about.
Yeah.
That's a lot of it, Brian. Talking on game.
That's funny you say that, Jason, because like the time that I mean, I am not at all a guy that's like put money into my system. You know, it's not something that like I like live for. But when
I'll always, Sam, sorry to interrupt. I will always remember when I was visiting you and I was like looking at like your turntable or whatever.
Yeah.
And you told me the story about when Glenn.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, go ahead. Or you want me to tell my rendition of your story?
Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the nuts and bolts of it was just like, you know, Sam was like, "Oh, Glenn's here. You know, I'm going to put on a record," and you know, puts on a record, and Glenn's like, "Damn, like your system sounds good. Like, what is that sort of thing?" And Sam's like, "I don't fucking know."
$100 speaker from Amazon. Yeah, with my CD player.
And he's like, "It sounds good," and Sam's like, "Does it?"
Like it could like everything comes into play. Like, you know, like the carpet in the room, like the small room, like whatever it is, you do it for the room. And for my apartment, I'm not blasting my stuff, you know, up to 11 because I have downstairs neighbors. And I'm sure Alex has some similar, you know, things that he has to deal with, similar size place. It's like, I don't need this like mega, like if I was in like my own home, like Jason, like if I was like Jason, I'd want like my own shed for, like with like my system, you know, like here, I'm like, I can only turn this up so loud. And like, when you only have like a mediocre system, that's okay. Because like, it's only on like medium volume at the highest for me. It's the same thing. Like I don't play guitar past 10 o'clock. It's like a rule that I've given myself. Like I just want to respect the people around me. So yeah, again, I'm not an audiophile. My stuff sounds good when the record sounds good. That's all I need right now.
I was gonna say, man, DCM is on fire tonight. Whatever DCM
awesome.
be in the T. But I mean, not to keep harping on it, which is a great preface to harp on it. Is like, yes, and again, it goes back to the original point I made of like, I think everybody naturally cares about how things sound.
Sure,
you know, I don't think that is an audiophile thing to say like, oh, I care how music sounds. You know, I think back, I don't know about you guys, but back in the Kazaa or LimeWire or Napster days, there was a very clear difference in downloading illegally things at a higher quality versus things at a terribly low quality. And you could hear that as a 10-year-old, you know? Like, why does this sound like this is, you know, recorded with a freaking potato sort of situation? And so it's not to say that people don't care about sound. To me, it is the, you know, it's like the demonization of people who, you know, I don't know, just watching some of the people, especially, you know, like this is no disrespect on like Mike at the in-group or like the stuff he does, but he mentions all the time of like, you know, people that come into the stores and he would say like, oh, if you only heard the difference between this album and that album. And that might be true, provided that person cares enough to hear the difference, or as a system
that they can invest enough. Yeah.
Right. It's like we were playing this, you know, it's like the tracking angle and Fremer and his gang, right? Like those are my least favorite videos because it's like, what does this basic ass record sound on a $45,000 turntable? And you're like, what? And here's the funny thing, I'm gonna watch that video through my shitty laptop
or this thing.
Right. And here's the thing, Sam, if you got your little Android, because you do,
Android for life, Android gang.
You could put that in a toilet paper holder, the little cardboard
Oh,
thing, and it
God.
fucking comes out that way. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, if we were at work and we were doing something like cleaning or whatever, we would like, get the silver bowl out. We put our phone in the bowl to like amplify the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
Bunch of stuff going on. Pick up a new receiver. Shopped around Best Buy. Yeah, it's great. I have no idea what kind of I have some kind of Yamaha amp that my buddy's dad gave me. I have no idea. It could be worth $5. It could be worth $5,000. That's the other thing. I don't know. It's probably not worth $5,000.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I do too. It's like, the trust thing, but then it's like, it's interesting because then it's like we get these videos, the newest Sabbath thing. Sorry, Jason, just got your text. Thank you. It's like the Sabbath thing, right? It's like, it's some people are like, this sounds amazing, and then other people are like, it doesn't sound amazing. And
Did you get that Sabbath, Alex?
I did, yes.
You did.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I listened to it. I think it sounds good. But what can I compare it to?
I know. Yeah.
Because again, even amongst here's where we get down into that nitty gritty. Okay, I have an original. What do the people call it? I have an original Warner Brothers greenie.
Ooh, a greenie, they call it.
A greenie. Okay, but I don't got no Vertigo swirl. I ain't got no all this kind of shit.
Apparently, the greenie's better. You get the better one.
Right, but I got a greenie, but it's not in mint.
Yeah.
It's got some noise to it, so I don't know. I truthfully, between you, me, the fence post, and everybody all the people watching out there, I bought the record because audiophile metal records are really, really hard to come by. I didn't say that to flip it. Even though it's like a $150 record right now. But it's one of those oh, cool. I love that album a lot. I want what I think might be the best sounding version of it that I can get, because buying that for $40 was a lot easier than me trying to hound down an original UK Vertigo swirl or whatever, in that sort of way. But, it's interesting that it's oh, I think this sounds better. And they'd be like, you're wrong. Not only are you wrong, but you're a piece of shit, Jason. you are terrible. So it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, bro, Zach is here. What's up, Quackster? Hope you're doing well, my friend. Biggest difference I've noticed in a higher end system, soundstage. Closing your eyes and being able to hear where players would be on the stage while listening. LP is really cool.
There is so much of my feed, thanks to the algorithms that know that I'm a bit of a nerd about stuff, about speaker placement. If anyone's watching that cares about that shit, there is so much out there regarding speaker placement and how that affects your, the room itself dictates a ton. But, I think Darko Audio just did a bunch of stories or reels or whatever on Instagram, and he talked about placing your speakers. Start with them at the back of the room, put them next to your ears, put them in front of your ears, and all these different distances. And when you hear stories like that, you realize that you don't have to spend a ton of money to improve your sound. You can take your existing system and move it within the room you have and totally improve the whole thing. If you care about that, right? If you do, right? And I'm kind of on the fence where I land on that stuff, but I would definitely play with speaker positioning before I invest any money.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. A lot of stuff. Well, this was fun, gents. I enjoyed this thoroughly. Hope you had a great time too. Glad that you could make it the extra 40 minutes over or whatever. As is tradition, we're going to go around the horn. What's going on in each other's channels? We're going to start with Jason.
Or just nice, Jason.
With hashtag underachiever.
I was so prepared. I have the notes scribbled down to make a video about an artist that I've been wanting to make a video about forever. I think I'm finally, and tonight, thank you, brothers, for kind of making this happen. I think I'm kind of motivated to try to make this work in the next week or so. I'll probably put the video out. The specific artist that I've talked about before, and I want to put his name out there a little more for the 3 people that watch, you, him, you two, and me.
Yeah.
But
You watch
in any
yourself
event,
too.
clearly nothing's happening. I've been very busy. Peanut Gallery, I love you. Thank you, Trevor. I know he's not watching anymore, but he made a note to say that he missed me a little bit, just a little bit. In any event, nothing new here, but I'm glad to be on the screen. Thank you.
Love that. We love you, Jason. We just love you being here, man. It's great to catch up with you. Sam, we're gonna say you went viral with your little Beach Boys,
A little bit.
Beach toys, huh?
Yeah, the beach toys. Yeah. I did a review. I saw the touring Beach Boys last week in Williamsburg, actually a week ago, Friday. And when we were on the stream, me, you, and Emma on, was that Friday night? It was Saturday because it was the day I got back home. It had been posted for like an hour and only had like 7 or 8 views, and now it's creeping up on 600, which is crazy. It hit the algorithm at the right time. So I think I might hop on that, little wagon there a little bit longer. I got a record from Steve. I posted that video. But Gary, our boy, Physical Format, just did his favorite Beach Boys songs, a video, and
oh, nice.
I was about to do the same thing. Like, I was thinking about it, and then he posted it today, and I told him, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do that too. So I might do that next, just to kind of like see if the Beach Boys crowd still sees me, because you got to play the game in that way.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, I mean, it's still good, fun content, right?
It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a couple things out there. I've been pretty prolific the last week. Really,
you've been doing very well.
I just posted my most recent was posting a video, maybe an hour before we started here, of a concert review and a little discography review of a band called Krangbin, who I saw a few weeks ago. But wanted to show a couple of funsy records out there. I'm rolling at like 27 views on it right now for 3 hours, which is like great, Sam. But this is still cool. I was really jacked to grab that, right? Like, that was just cool as hell. So
yeah,
some cool signature
action.
As well as, I mean, I showed this on the video, but I just think, obviously colored vinyl is, hip. It's always hip, but like when you get those, get my lighting right here. When you get those one records that you're like, damn, like that just gets me hot,
Yeah.
Like I'm tired of plain white. Plain white does nothing for me. I'm tired of I'm tired of just like basic colors, like, ooh, here's a blue sort of thing. This might be one of the prettiest, beautiful, beautiful looking records in the collection. And that is this right here.
Oh, wow.
And then other side. And yeah, I mean, it's cool on camera, but it also is even better in person.
Yeah.
Say. So very cool, neo kind of soul psychedelic, mostly instrumental band that I saw several weeks ago, and they were great and picked up some cool stuff. So that's my most recent video. And for those watching who are still there, I would say expect a Sunday stream. A Saturday stream. So if you boys are around, which means Sam, if you're around, I think probably Emma and I are going to do a pre-Stones stream. Because I'll be up visiting at her place. So we might do something. We'll probably do something Stones themed. I don't know what that is, but we'll probably do something. It's like a pre-Stones sort of thing. So,
your favorite syringes? Your list of favorite syringes?
That's a good joke. Yeah. So we'll probably do that, but for sure. Hey, thanks, Brian. I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you tuning in, man, and watching all that kind of stuff, and hope all is well out there in Japan. But boys, this was a ton of fun. Glad we could do it. And I'll catch you on Instagram here in probably about 3 seconds.
Jason,
everybody.
Take care, everybody. Be good. Have a great weekend. Good night. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Uchi Mama.